Good evening. This is the South Haven Planning Commission regular meeting for Thursday, October 3rd, 2024. Call the meeting to order. And Megan, if you'd call the roll.
Of course. Michael Campbell.
Here.
Clark Gruber.
Here.
Larry Heinig.
Here.
Mary Hosley.
Here.
Amy Nichols.
Here.
Eddie Polk.
Here.
Bob Sherman.
Here.
Janice Varney.
Here.
Tim Stegman.
Here. Next up, we'll have the approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Agenda is approved. Next up, we'll have the approval of meeting minutes. There's two sets. September 5th, regular meeting, and August 29th is a workshop. You can do them individually or as a group.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the minutes of the regular meeting for Thursday, September 5th, and for the workshop for Thursday, August 29.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to amend the meeting minutes for September 5th. I have provided a copy to Megan so that I can read it quickly. On page 6 of the packet, the last sentence before item 10 says, Attorney Bloom shared the list he had been keeping of changes / clarification mentioned during the discussion. I would like to add immediately following a new sentence, this list is comprised of the following items: bullet, density or separateness; bullet, should we consider an overlay district; bullet, ambiguity rate, attached condos; bullet, lawfully in existence; bullet, should there be a floor; bullet, how should fees be set; bullet, Maplegate parent removed from excluded PUDs, close parent; and bullet, make condos non-exempt.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion?
I would just like to clarify, I believe you provided that also for dissemination to Planning Commission before tonight's meeting?
Yes.
Again, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the meeting minutes as amended. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting minutes are approved as amended. Item 4, public comment. Citizens in the audience may address the planning commissions regarding items on this agenda for which there is no scheduled public hearing. Please state your name, address, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Shannon Carey, and I live at 500 Erie Street, Unit 114, South Haven, right down the street from here, Central Lofts. Thank you for giving me the time to talk today. 500 Erie Street is one of 3 buildings that comprise Central Lofts condominium complex right down the road. Central Lofts consists of 3 buildings, 500 Erie, 460 Broadway, 525 Superior, each with its own association but sharing amenities located at the 500 Erie Street building. I have the unique perspective of being a year-round part-time resident with a condo at Central Lofts, which is not offered for rental, and also we own an STR, single-family home, and we've done that since 2013. We absolutely welcome robust and fair STR regulations as well as a reasonable cap. In 2025, my spouse and I will retire to South Haven full-time, and we very much look forward to it. We're here a lot. The unintended result of the STR permit moratorium, which excluded PUDs and excluded Central Lofts, is the units that are offered for sale at 500 Erie Street and 460 Broadway are purchased by investors operating STRs. All of them. I am sure this is happening at all of the accepted PUDs in South Haven. The tragic result of that is turning 460 Broadway into a hotel. They are unable to fill board positions. I am on the board at 500 Erie Street, and while we have more legacy ownership of non-investors, each unit that has sold since the moratorium has been purchased by an investor. All the shared amenities for all three buildings are located in my building. Therefore, the owners at 500 Erie Street have become de facto hotel management operators, sharing and policing the amenities spaces in our building, including a pool, hot tub, theaters, gym, and patio with grills. The majority of owners at Central Lofts implore the Planning Commission to include legacy condominiums in the STR cap and all other STR regulations applying to non-PUD homes. If all of our available condo units continue to be purchased by investors, the non-investor owners, like me, will continue to be disillusioned by their roles as hotel operators and sell as well, leaving us in the same boat as 460 Broadway building, which has more investors than non-investors and already functions like a hotel more than a condominium association. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Dan Agnello, 964 Everett Parkway. I want to talk also about STRs, item 6. First of all, I see here that is still a non-actionable item. We've had our second moratorium. It's going to come up pretty soon by expiring, and like I've said the last few years, we're going to go through another January, the 4th January, where there's been no action on reform. So I don't know why we're not doing any work on that to get things done. You saw my comments, I hope, in my email. I'm just going to repeat them. If you sell an STR, the implied STR use should not go with the STR. The registration should not go with it. And then I'm going to say about the cap, the moratorium on, and the cap are just forcing other people to try to get personal STRs. And I know that for a fact because I just talked to a friend of mine I was fishing with, and he told me the neighbor has a house now that he couldn't get a business STR, so now he's got a personal one. And of course, we know personal ones are almost impossible to enforce. So we talked many times about getting rid of personal STRs, but I can see the reasons why it's there for people that want to pay their taxes or whatever. But I do applaud you for putting in the fact that now they have to have 100% PRE, and it's in the state's hands as far as determining PRE. So at least we got something going on that. And that's it. Thank you.
Hi, Tim.
Hey, Todd.
I used to be on this commission. I think there are 3 new members since I left. I left out of frustration.
You need to state your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, Todd Heinrich, 357 Moore Court. I left out of frustration with how the city was managing short-term rentals in the neighborhoods in particular. I want to talk tonight less about the minutia and more about sort of what's happening in the STR world. Planning commissions across Michigan, the U.S., and the world are taking action to protect their communities and residents from the commercialization of their neighborhoods. New York City recently decided to cut the number of STRs in the city in half. Barcelona, Spain, population 1.3 million, decided to phase out all 15,800 short-term rental permits that exist in their residential-only areas by 2028. Closer to home, our city attorney, Cliff Bloom's law firm, is defending other West Michigan municipalities who, like us, have been threatened by STR owners if residents try to restrict STRs. There is local evidence that, excuse me, I skipped some. Why are these places doing this? Because short-term rentals remove housing for workers and managers and executives and business owners. They cause job loss, they cause population loss, these costs are a burden to all of us. There is local evidence of this. You can easily find the following on your own. While almost every tourist town up and down Lake Michigan coast has stable or growing year-round population, South Haven continues to lose population. Is there a more accurate measure of a municipality's success or failure than if people want to move here or not move here? My wife Susan works at Bronson, and they are always trying to get professional people to move here. She will tell you, and has told you, that many prospective employees, potential future residents, especially younger people, view South Haven as poorly managed because of our STR situation. All of you are professionals. if you were in your 20s or 30s or 40s, would you move to the city of South Haven today? Or could you afford to? If you're not sure, the statistics agree. Young people are deciding not to move here. The U.S. Census Bureau just adjusted the median age of South Haven upward again, 2 years to 61 years median age. That needs context. The median population of Michigan is about 40. The age of Lake Michigan towns which advertise tourism on Pure Michigan between the Indiana state line and Petoskey, Michigan, is age 42. Again, South Haven is now 61, up from 59 2 years ago. Holland's median age is 33. St. Joe's is 43. Petoskey's age is 41. Traverse City is 42. These are all tourist towns like us. The local costs of lost residents and their skills and work and income far exceed the financial gains from STRs, especially now that we know that over half of South Haven's neighborhood STRs have out-of-state owners. The STR rents that people quote as part of the economic impact fly through the internet out of state. Hardly any of it ever lands here. Hundreds of community leaders have petitioned the city, including leaders and employees of some of South Haven's largest employers. Many members of clergy have stood at this podium in the last years, as have doctors, lawyers, and yes, STR owners and second homeowners. They want city leaders to know they think that commercial businesses in neighborhoods is a bad idea for South Haven. There are three things that we've learned in the last year. First, our city attorney, Cliff Bloom, has recommended in the preamble to the proposed ordinance, we need to be crystal clear, quote, we need to be crystal clear that short-term rentals in residential zoning districts are a commercial use. When our STR ordinances were passed, they were incorrectly categorized STRs as a residential use. Our STR ordinances sit on weak foundations. Second, the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act was never intended to or has never been successfully used to permit short-term rentals in any Michigan municipality. Again, refer to City Attorney Bloom. His firm is providing legal defense for other municipalities who are fighting that idea. In closing, as an amateur planner, one of the most distressing things that comes from STR opponents is this: we've always done it. As planners, you know that way of thinking is the antithesis of the fundamental principles of planning and progress. If you believe neighborhood short-term rentals are not a problem or that they are an unsolvable problem, please reconsider. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Lisa Croupiers, 561 Indiana. Tourism is not going to go away if we limit STRs. We have been a popular town since forever. We've always been a tourism destination town. I just finally finished reading the third book in B. Krause's trilogy about South Haven. And tourism is an underlying theme continuously. And if we limit our STRs, people will still come here. Even if we limited it to a minimum of a week or a minimum of 30 days rental, we would still have people coming here. They would come. And we would not lose tourism. So I just have a couple items I want to mention about STRs. I continue to remind you that in our southwest downtown area, which is essentially Ward 1, on the snapshot, the STR snapshot report, our ratio in that area is 1 STR to 2 homes. The citywide ratio is intended to be 1 STR to 4, or let's say 1 STR of 5 homes, of 5 residences. And in our southwest downtown area, it is 1 STR of 3 residences. You can go down South Haven Street, Monroe Street, Clinton, Superior, between Indiana Avenue and Maple, and it is a ghost town at this time of year. In the summers, it's busting off the rails, it's parked completely on all sides, and it is a ghost town now. And we all love this time of year when things settle down, but we don't want it to be empty. So I hope that in the efforts we're making, which has been a long time coming, and I don't know how much change is going to occur, but we would like the ratio to be equitable with what the intentions of the city was when they set that ratio. I believe Dan said it, STR certificates, when there's a title change, should not stay with the property until we get down, actually I shouldn't even say that. When we get down to an agreeable maximum, perhaps the lottery would start again, I don't know. I think that's going to be a long time coming, but the certificates should not stay with the property. We also have an issue with on-holds. The attorney says there are 50 on-holds, and many of us have determined that it's more like 100. These on-holds either have to go away, be fixed and corrected, or they need to be dropped off, and renting absolutely should not be done during the on-hold status. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary Lynn Boogie, 70 Gabriel Drive. First of all, I'd like to commend Todd and hope you all listened to what he had to say. And if there's some way that we can legally eliminate existing ones, then I certainly encourage us to, in the city, to find a way to do it, to bring it down to a reasonable level. However, I also recognize the fact that, unfortunately, zoning runs with the land, and therefore you're trying to address it by this proposed ordinance. I'd like to make some specific suggestions as you look at this. First of all, currently it says that the definitions will go under the definitions section. I would suggest that the definitions go under the ordinance article that pertains just to short-term rentals, because these terms only pertain to that. I also would like to mention, and I think there's been somewhat of a mention about the condominium units, attached condominium units. They don't seem to be properly addressed in here. Currently, they are considered exempt, which I believe what this lady was talking about, and that has caused a problem in condominiums because there was no regulation of them. The feeling was that because they have a board of directors, they would take care of this. And obviously, that doesn't fly. But this does not seem to be addressing the attached condominiums at all. They are currently exempt. The ones that have legal licenses, there needs to be a way of expressing the attrition of these. There needs to be a way, and I'm wondering if perhaps there is something in here that does seem to might pertain to them, because it says that once the condominiums, not the condominiums, but the PUDs, which happen to be condominiums, but I'm talking specifically about attached condominiums, are 75% or more developed, and essentially her condominium and a lot of the other attached condominiums, most all of them are already occupied by 75%, built by 75%. So then I'm wondering, would they come under the criterion here for 75%, and therefore would come under the cap? Finally, it seems that in Article number 5, which is referring to the floor, it specifically talks about that you'll establish what the floor will become. There's not a number in there. That's something you're going to have to look at. I could make a suggestion of like 200. I doubt you'll take that, but anyway, there's my suggestion. However, then it goes on to say that when the approved by the city reaches the cap or maximum number of short-term business residents allowed, excuse me, let me go back up here. When When the number of lawful short-term rental business units falls below blank, then the annual allocation process specified in subsection F, which I assume is referring to the one that currently is in place called the lottery, herein will be instituted until the number of short-term rental business units that are successfully registered and approved by the city reaches the cap or maximum number of short-term rental businesses units allowed pursuant to sections C1 and C3 thereof. No, that's not correct. It's when they reach the floor. If it goes below the floor, then you would have a lottery. If you went back to C1 or C3, you're talking about C1, it says how many units are here now. So as you look at this, there are very specific things that need to be addressed. I have some more, but that's sufficient for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Rich Green, 408 Eagle Street, Shores Vacation Rentals, and I'm probably one of the most unpopular opinions in this room. I'm also a veteran. I fought in the Persian Gulf War. I moved back here to Michigan to raise my son 13 years ago. We couldn't afford to live in South Haven. We started over here on Phoenix Court. But with a new baby, we had to move out. I don't hold that against anybody. I grew up in Kalamazoo and I watched this city grow. And it's always growing on tourism. You're right. A lot of it goes through Kalamazoo, and we head straight here on the weekends so we can hit those beaches. Short-term rentals clearly is a very emotional thing across the United States. But I'll tell you, if you tell these homeowners who have purchased here, because we have 77 houses that we manage. We've been managing, our Shores has, for over 40 years. You tell these homeowners that they can't rent anymore, okay, fine. But that's not going to bring back life to your neighborhoods. It's not going to fill them up because those homeowners will struggle. They'll either have to sell to somebody else or into an investment firm. But when they sell, or if they don't sell actually, they can only still afford to come up here 2 weeks out of the summer because that's kind of the American way, or maybe a month. So you're still going to have empty homes. So I'm not sure completely if we're all thinking about every cog in the wheel, because the cogs are many in this wheel. But telling these people that they can no longer rent their homes is going to somehow make vibrancy in our neighborhoods here, that's probably not the truth. And what about the people that like winter? They go down to Florida, the snowbirds. Are you going to tell them soon that they can't do that either because you want people next door? I get it. We don't like empty homes. But what we like is we like vibrancy in this town. We like all the restaurants on Phoenix Street. We like the businesses and the business growth out here. Well, that's all based on tourism. It might not be just completely on short-term rentals, but limiting somebody's constitutional right to their property, I don't think that's completely the way either. This going to a cap of 200, then who's the 200? Who are the lucky people? Because with those lotteries, we know how lotteries are. There's always one family who's lucky and they get it all the time. And then there's others who just don't. That's not a good way either. I would sit back and really kind of think and see what we can come up with. Shores, we're going to reach out to everybody, all the stakeholders in the city pretty soon, and that's the neighborhood needs neighbors. And we're going to invite everybody to kind of talk this out. Find some real common sense solutions to this. It's not by telling these people they can't own this home. Because you're sitting here saying that these kids, well, they don't want to come here. Well, they don't come here because, yes, it is expensive. But when you have $1 million homes up and down the coastline, it drives property prices up. A lot of people who have sold their homes have made a lot of money. In 1995, after getting out of the military, family's friend said, hey, I have a house in South Haven. You should think about buying it. I'll sell it to you for $55,000. I was like, nah, I'm too young. And I missed out. Boy, I wish I would have jumped on that and sat on that and waited till now and sold now, because I could probably retire. But another trend that we're not talking about is millennials and Gen Z and why and what they want. They don't want these big homes. They want a little 350 square foot house. Fenville, where I live now, just passed a zoning law that says people can build those little homes. And it's not going to hurt the property value to their neighbors. I would just, again, my final thought here again is just to remember that just because you say no to these people, that house isn't going to be full. You're not going to hear children's laughter up and down those streets like you think you are. It's going to be empty until they can afford to come up here for their 2 weeks or their 1 month out of the year and enjoy their families.
Okay, anyone else?
Hi, my name is Kathleen Ben. I live at 223 North Shore Drive, Unit 101. I'm one of those people that came up when I was about 50 and said, I need to live here. This is the best place, beautiful downtown. And my first experiences with the government was you're very well organized, and I don't see any change in that today. I happen to be president of North Shore Condominiums. We have 83 units there. I'm also a property manager for 14 units on the north side in those condominiums along the lakefront. Out of our 83 units, we have about 40 that are short-term rentals. And we do manage that organically. We have 0 investors that own on our condominiums. They're all owners that do have a dream to move here one day, retire here one day. It's very important to them to buy these properties and have that in their future. There is and you might have addressed it in the change in the minutes. If you did, I'm apologizing now. On AC2, it says condominiums are not exempt and are included in the count. We were always exempt. We're RM2 residential. So while we get our permits, we are not included in those counts. If you start including all of our condominiums in the counts, you're going to blow it up because, just in ours alone, it's 40. So take that into consideration. I'm sure you have some numbers there. I was not able to find those today. But anyway, we do manage our owners organically. We want people that are going to be long-term residents. And I would encourage you to start with the schools. Bring your schools up to par. My town in Illinois that I moved from really became one of the leading subdivisions in the South Chicago area because of our school districts. We had phenomenal teachers coming in. We supported any of the tax increases for those. And that's how we built our housing market. Then we brought developers in that did indeed build affordable housing, which is how you get those full-time residents. It's not by excluding certain members, it's by starting to include people that want to be here. Our infrastructure with our fiber connections, people work from home, right? So that's my 2 cents. Anyway, I appreciate your time and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I have my monthly Planning Commission comment log of communications the Planning Commission has received, and I'll read through it. Dan Agnello, 912, non-permanent sign regulations, and another one on 912 about STR regulations. And there was Shannon Carey on 10-1. STR regulations, specifically occupancy limits and PUD exemptions. Then on the 3rd of October, Dan Agnello, STR regulations, support for PRE requirement, belief that right to rent should not transfer to new property owners, potentially non-conforming STRs. And then on October 1st, Gerard and Jennifer Durkee, concern about rezoning property, especially for the purpose of a mobile home park. Dan Agnello on the 2nd of October, several zoning ordinance comments. October 3rd, Jim Sankowski, opposition to barn garages and mega mansions in the city. October 3rd, Linda Schubel, effect of stormwater, impervious surface on neighboring properties, support for continuation of SLU requirements for home occupations. October 3rd, Rachel Sankowski, share any zoning ordinances, changes, ensure new development is harmonious with existing neighborhood character, opposition to barn-dominium style developments. October 3rd, Mark Placati, Walt, several housing-related zoning comments. And again, on the 3rd, Liz Smith, support for continuation of SLU requirements for home occupations, support for including decks and lot coverage. I think that's it. Did I miss any? Okay. Next up, we'll do item 5. Excuse me. Zoning ordinance comprehensive update, public hearing. Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will remind the group that we do need to conduct a public hearing tonight on zoning ordinance comprehensive update, and I will spare you my voice on this topic and turn things over right away to Andy Moore.
Okay.
Thank you, Kelly. Good evening, Commissioners. So what I'd like to do here, as you know, we've been over this several times the last few months, so because this is a public hearing and for the benefit of any public that is here, I would like to run through a short presentation that we prepared. It's similar to the one that we did earlier on in the process, just to sort of introduce to the public give them kind of the high-level overview in terms of what we have been working on here. So the background of the project is that really, going back to 2019 and 2020, the city identified a need for an updated zoning ordinance. In 2020, they asked us to prepare an audit of the existing zoning ordinance, which we did. That audit identified, there's a fairly lengthy memo, basically. It was 12 or 15 pages or something. And it identified things like conflicting provisions, issues with the document structure and organization, regulations that were either outdated or kind of cumbersome and confusing. And then we've noticed just with the way that it's put together, amending the ordinance and sort of adding new language into the framework of the old document is something that's challenged the city over the years. So to kind of solve some of those things, the city decided to embark on a comprehensive rewrite of the ordinance. So more than just reorganizing sections around, we really kind of went cover to cover and did an overhaul of the entire document. That process began in August of 2022. There was a steering committee that consisted of 2 planning commission members, 1 ZBA member, a city council person, and a resident. And we met every month for about a year, maybe a year and a half. And went through the ordinance very methodically, section by section, and worked through the whole thing. And that was we did that because that's a much more sort of efficient and productive way of kind of getting through the whole thing fairly quickly, instead of trying to do it at a planning commission level because you guys have got other stuff going on. You have a lot of other applications going on, and so typically that process would have taken way longer than maybe it should have had we gone that route. Also participating in most of those committee meetings was the city attorney at the time, Nick Curcio. He also helped us and provided some legal review as we went through the document chapter by chapter. As you know, that came to you guys in December of 2023, and I think our first meeting on it was in January of 2024. And then over the last 9 months or so, the Planning Commission has been reviewing this with us, and we've made numerous edits to the document over the spring and summer. There's kind of 3 key areas that are what I consider to be the main focus, or how I look at these types of projects. So one is just looking at the overall structure and organization of the document, making sure that it's put together and organized in a way that's intuitive to not only you guys and to staff, but to the public. We focus a lot on process and procedure. As you guys know, there's different processes spelled out for a variety of different land use types and permit types. A lot of that's required by the act. Everything from zoning permits, special land uses, rezonings, PUDs, et cetera, et cetera. And then, thirdly, obviously, there are specific regulations and standards that are in the zoning ordinance, and we went through all of those. And again, a lot of our focus was on clarity, usability, the ability for everyone to be able to easily read and comprehend the zoning ordinance and not make it so imposing. So with each of those, with respect to structure and organization, so we added a table of contents. We created consistent headings, consistent color scheme, consistent formatting of consistent outline structure so that all of the sections and subsections kind of flow together in a way that makes sense. There's a fairly simple numbering format on the bottom, so instead of just being pages, starting at page 1 and continuing through page 250, the page numbering in the document is a chapter and then a page number. So if you want to amend, Article 20, Section 20.05, you don't have to renumber everything after that, or you don't have to worry about confusion in terms of how the thing is laid out, because you're only changing the page numbers on a handful of pages. So things like that to make amending the ordinance simpler was a goal of ours as well. In terms of process, so like I mentioned, site plans, special uses, PUDs, ZBA issues, zoning amendments, all require different types of procedures. So we made sure all of those are not only clear, but they follow the statute. And then, wherever it was appropriate, we added approval criteria, so it's not just asking the planning commission what they think and asking you to just sort of pull a decision out of thin air. We want you to have guidelines or approval standards where you must find that certain criteria are met, or at least, give you some guidelines that suggest the planning commission should be thinking about these factors as you evaluate a request that is in front of you. And then the last part of it, so we went through all of the standards, so the basic stuff, setbacks, lot coverage, specific special land use standards, general provisions. We kept a lot of those standards from the old ordinance just in terms of kind of the basics. We didn't see a need to change many of those. But as we've talked about over the last several months, there are some that we've kind of changed the way the thing is formatted. And again, there's a lot of just work that we did here to make it as clear as we could, so the document is as easy for everyone to use as it can be. There's a lot of little changes that we've been talking about. Some notable changes. There's the organization, and then there's also new graphics throughout the ordinance that we've talked about and reviewed. Your existing zoning ordinance, the old one has got 3 industrial districts. There's an I-1, an I-1B, and an I-2, so we consolidated those into 2 districts. We eliminated completely the professional business district PB1, which was supposed to have gone away a long time ago and been replaced by the HSD, which is your hospital district. So we kind of completed that separation. There's a high risk erosion overlay district, which basically just repeats Eagle standards. So we got rid of most of those, because we didn't feel the need to re-regulate or reapply what Eagle is already doing. So under the new standards, before they come to the city for a zoning permit, they have to have gone through the process with Eagle, secured an Eagle permit, and complied with those standards already. We eliminated the M43/I-96 business loop overlay. Everyone that we talked to found that confusing and sort of unnecessarily burdensome for most of those property owners. And we didn't see a good reason to keep it. It just sort of made things more confusing in our view, so we proposed to get rid of that. And then the other big one is that we reworked the PUD chapter in terms of how they're processed, and we've been through that a few times now. So those are going to be a rezoning to a PUD district instead of a special land use. That's an approach that I prefer strongly over a special land use for a bunch of reasons. I think the process is a little bit cleaner and easier. And then I think, while I'm not a lawyer, I think from a legal perspective, I think it's a better way to handle those, and it kind of protects the city a little bit better moving forward. So just kind of next step. So as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, the public hearing is tonight, so we're happy to hear any public comments. And then from there, the planning commission may make a recommendation to the city council if it is inclined to do so. Of course, you can also, request additional changes if you collectively decide that that's an appropriate direction. The city can, decide if it wants to have the new city attorney review the zoning ordinance. If you do, that's fine with me. We've worked with him quite a bit on a bunch of different projects. Understanding though that most of this has already been reviewed by your formal legal counsel as we went through the process, so this shouldn't be, there's not anything in here that's gonna be, hugely problematic, I don't think, but it's always a good idea to have him review things like this, so that's something that we typically recommend, but of course, that's your decision. Then eventually a final adoption by the city council would happen at a later time. Once it leaves the planning commission, the city council does not have to hold a public hearing on this document. So this is a planning commission document, so the planning commission holds the public hearing. And then from there, I think, unless there are specific questions about the ordinance, Mr. Chairman, I'd be comfortable with the public hearing, and then we kind of go from there and, kind of handle any questions or issues that come up that would require our attention. So from there, I'll turn it back over to you, and again, happy to answer any questions, and I appreciate all of your work on this over the last 7, 8, 9 months.
Okay, thank you. Everybody's looked at your workshop minutes, right? We went in the workshop with 14 items of consideration. We whittled that down to 10 that still have discussion to be made. So what I think we'll do is we'll open up the public hearing, and once that's done, then we'll go back through that workshop list one item at a time and try to dispose of those as efficiently as possible. Sound like a good plan?
And raise anything else that comes from public hearing.
Can, yes. All right, so I'll entertain a motion.
I move to open a public hearing.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Anybody wish to speak on the zoning ordinance update?
Hello, Nancy Nat, 125 Elkenberg. Sorry, sunglasses, prescription, forgot my other glasses, so.
The lights are bright, though.
Yeah, actually, it works pretty well in here. I made a copy of the brief notes I took on some of the things from but I only made 9 copies, so can I hand it off to the planning commission?
Probably give it to Kelly.
Secretary.
Okay, has my time started? Okay. I'm here tonight to discuss the draft, specifically Article 18 of the Planned Unit Development District. I live in an area that has the PUD of Trailside and potentially Overton, and I'm very familiar with the pitfalls of the current PUD ordinance. It is important that we get this part of the recodification done correctly. The PUD will affect not only the area I live in, but the downtown area as well, with the new locker development going in there, which is designated as a PUD. Under Section 1807, open space, it reads as follows. The Planning Commission may require an applicant to provide open space if deemed necessary to preserve, import natural features of the site. I would suggest that the wording be changed to the Planning Commission shall require the applicant to provide open space if necessary to preserve the natural features of the site. The reason I say this is because open space is an important part of any development, and it should be required. If for some reason a developer feels it isn't necessary, it should be on them to come up with a variance and present that to the Planning Commission versus the other way around. The next thing, I would like clarification on Section 1808, General Application Procedures under D, PUD Final Site Plan. It reads as follows. The Planning Commission and other applicable city personnel shall review the PUD Final Site Plan in accordance with Section 1813 of this article. I am not sure, does that mean that the city council will not be reviewing the final site plan? And if that is the case, I don't think that's a very good idea. Moving on, I'd like to address Section 1811, Number 2, Planning Commission Review, under A. The Planning Commission shall review the PUD preliminary report at a regular or special meeting. A public hearing shall be held by the Planning Commission for an application for a new PUD. For amendment to the existing PUD, a public hearing by the Planning Commission is not required, but may be held at the discretion of the city. This really doesn't make a lot of sense because public hearings are an opportunity for the residents to voice their opinions and concerns about developments in our city, regardless of whether the plans have been amended or not. I would suggest that be taken out, and it should be required that any amendment to a plan have a public hearing. The next thing is under the same 1811, Number 4, development agreements. Prior to the issuance of any building permits or commencement of construction on any portion of a PUD, the City Council may require the applicant to enter into the development agreement with the city and recordable from acceptable to the city attorney. And I think that should be changed from may to shall. And lastly, Section 1814, under 4, Appeals and Variance, reads, because an approved PUD has been reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission and City Council, the zoning boards of appeals shall not have jurisdiction to consider variances from the requirements of the article, nor may decisions related to a PUD be appealed to the Zoning Board of Appeals. This seems to tie the hands of the residents once again by setting up blocks to going before the Zoning Board of Appeals with concerns regarding developments in their city. And I suggest this be removed. And that's it, and I hope you guys have a productive meeting. Thank you.
Hi, Mary Moore, 88 Van Buren Street. A goal of the master plan from 2018, as I read it, was familiar with it, was to preserve the existing character of neighborhoods. Also, the plan was, I thought, to improve the neighborhoods where the desired character has diminished over time. I think that part of the proposed changes to zoning do not align well with that. In particular, the lot coverage changes seem to go against the need and intent to manage the stormwater runoff, which I hear about a lot, and I see when it rains, it often pours on my house. It pours on the garage, goes down the drain and into the concrete, and no place to go. Plans for building sites should then be checked for potential added runoff issues. Driveways and pools should be considered in the review because it doesn't go away from those. Also, I worry about that the absence of the special land use permits will encourage the growth of businesses in residential areas. We have enough. This is another thing that would work against the community wish as expressed in the master plan. I'd just like to say, as much as it was kind of complicated when Chuck and I decided to rebuild our garage and to rehab our house, which we love dearly, it's old, the rules and reasoning behind all the what we had to do didn't make a lot of sense at the time. It was kind of a nuisance. You know, we had to measure where that eave was as it approached the edge of our property. I understand them now. I understand what they were for, because that water, if we had our house closer and the eaves not counted, which is I think how I understood this, would be going right onto my neighbor's roof, which is in their garage, and we already have a puddle between us, and I care about my neighbors. Same thing happens in the median between our driveways. So yard space without concrete has proven essential for the stormwater, not the yard space, the green space, is essential for preventing the stormwater from causing problems for us and for our neighbors. So please just revisit those issues. Thank you.
Dan Agnello, 964 Everett Parkway. I'd like to reiterate what a couple comments that Nancy made about STR PUDs. I brought this up before when Everett Park amended their site plans, and they were going to do phase 2. The ordinance is written, it says you didn't have to have a public review on it. You did, and I appreciate that, but the ordinance does not say it is required. I would say it is required, and also a final site plan should also be required to be reviewed, because they can change a lot of things. There was like 13 amendments made on the PUD for phase 2, and the public should have a right to review it as well as you do. I want to, in regard to the ordinance changes, I want to thank the Planning Commission for leaving in the intent of Article 7. I also like that it has been included at the beginning of the ordinance, so it comes right up front and says there is no land use requirement per se, and it can be changed. And that was one of the things that we were talking about with regard to STRs that are non-conforming, and land use was one of them, said whether they're locked into land use. Well, they are not. And that gives you a way out, just like our attorney said. I'll read a section 7 again. The proposed sections in 102.3 paragraph reads, apart from valid, lawful, and non-conforming use structure, lot, or partial rights signed by Michigan law and pursuant to the article, nothing in this ordinance shall be interpreted or construed to create or give rise to any permanent vested right in the continuation of any particular ordinance, language, zoning district, zoning classification, or allowed activities or uses under this ordinance. Sounds pretty good, but I think the original Article 27 is more powerful and is a better way to do it. Nothing in this ordinance should be interpreted or construed to give rise to any permanent vested rights in the continuation of any particular use, district, zoning, classification, or any other permissible activities therein, and they are hereby declared to be subject to subsequent amendment, changes, or modification as may be necessary to the preservation or protection of public health and welfare. That part is not in that, also about public health and welfare. I would suggest that the original article be used instead of this proposed one, 102.3, and it has more meat in it and originally met the legal interpretation, and so I don't see any reason why it shouldn't. I also want to thank you for keeping the two-story language in the building heights, 1 and 2 story, because that had been missing for a long time, and it was a typographical error, and as a result of that, there had been a lot of problems with building heights. A lot of time and work was put into the badly needed recodification. Thank you very much. However, as I've stated in the past, the at-large representation should have been a lot higher. I believe there's only one at-large person on that committee, and there should have been more. I'd also like to talk about signs. There was no action on the sign ordinance, and I don't think anybody requested one, but the thing is, we had submitted a lot of photos of permanent signs for rentals and for whatever, in end of March. Nothing has happened since then. And I would like to get an answer from the city on why there has been no action or what their criteria is and why they didn't take any action. Thank you. Because they said we can't, a definition of a non-permanent sign is one that can be easily moved, like an election sign or a sign for the Shays Pancake Breakfast with on the wires. But signs that are in the ground on 4x4 posts or in concrete 4x4 posts, fastened to fences, fastened to buildings, are permanent signs. I don't understand, how this cannot be interpreted that way. But I'd like to get an answer on our questions and many other residents' questions on why these permanent signs are still there and no action has been taken. Thank you.
Hi. Pat Gaston on 97 Superior Street. I guess as far as the new zoning, my big concern is what's a deck and lot coverage. So we used to have it, as far as my knowledge, was anything over 4 inches off the ground was lot coverage, was a deck and it was lot coverage. But now we seem to have turned that just totally upside down. And so anything, so now we can have decks 6 feet off the ground, and we can have balconies above them, 20 by 10 feet wide, and that's not lot coverage. I don't know how this happened. Several years ago, a house was being built, and they were putting a balcony deck on the second floor. And I noticed it, and I went down to planning, or the city hall and the zoning, and I said, they can't do that, they're over lot coverage. They go, oh, no, anything above the ground, that, up on the second floor, that's not lot coverage anymore. Of course, our previous zoning said, yes, that is lot coverage. I've been told that maybe you don't think it's relevant because rain can go through and it won't hurt the runoff. We already, per our zoning, and I really am not complaining about this, we have lot coverage, and people are building huge houses. Again, that's their right. They have a right to do that. But now to add decks and balconies is just over the top, I think. Even from an aesthetic viewpoint, these lots in my area, many 50 by 100, it would look like the whole lot is covered. I don't know why we've changed this. I know the person at that time when I came down to City Hall about it worked for Williams and Work, and he maybe now he thinks, well, you couldn't, but now you should. I don't know what happened here, but I am totally against decks that are above 4 inches off the ground and balconies on the second floor being considered lot coverage and not being considered lot coverage. That's just taking a small lot and covering the whole thing. I think it's crazy. I don't know how that went through or why you have that in there, but that's my big complaint. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Patricia Shepherd, and I'm the owner and full-time resident of 214 Superior Street. In 2014, my husband and I retired and moved from the Chicago area to our cottage in Covert Township. In 2017, we sold our cottage and moved to South Haven. We were fortunate enough to purchase 214 Superior, just 2 blocks from the lake. We chose South Haven because we thought the small town charm would provide the peaceful and safe neighborhood that we desired. Retirement was going to be a time to slow down and get to know our new neighbors. What we hadn't anticipated was that our block would be choked with commercial short-term rentals, not neighbors. 7 of the 11 houses on our block are short-term rentals. I expect the new construction next door will be a short-term rental with time, bringing us to 8 of 11 houses. So much for a sense of community. The 2018 City of South Haven Master Plan clearly states that one of their goals is to preserve the existing character of neighborhoods. Another goal is to improve neighborhoods where the desired character has diminished over time. I understand that the master plan is being challenged with new zoning ordinances that could continue to erode the character of our residential neighborhoods. What actions have been implemented to preserve the existing character of neighborhoods or to improve neighborhoods? Has this been achieved in the last 6 years with the tsunami of business short-term rentals in our residential neighborhoods? The answer is a resounding no. Illegal short-term rental businesses are disrupting the character of our residential neighborhoods. Instead of taking action to achieve the master plan goals, the city has violated the plan and done the opposite. Now, the city wants to exacerbate the admitted problem of stormwater runoff. They want to change the lot coverage measurement to the structural wall instead of the drip line on new dwellings. This will lead to more structure, more runoff, and less space for runoff. Why would the city want to make the runoff problem worse? New construction at 220 Superior next door to me is proposed to be over 4,400 square feet of living space with 7 bedrooms, not compatible with adjacent residential use. Our home has 1,600 square feet of living space. The owner from Indiana is building a so-called second home that will maximize coverage of the allowable 40% of the 62-foot wide lot. I already see a potential runoff problem with the size of the house and their driveway on my property line. Imagine how the runoff problem could worsen if they could build an even bigger house. Another change that the city is proposing is to waive the special use permit, thereby increasing to 25% the floor space of residential dwellings used for business purposes. Don't we already have too many business dwellings with short-term rentals in residential areas? Are residential areas in South Haven going to cease to exist? Please stop turning our residential areas into commercial districts. As a concerned resident of South Haven, I recommend that the zoning does not change concerning these two matters. Let's use common sense. Please remember the community-approved goals of the 2018 Master Plan and continue to work on achieving these goals. Community comes first. Thank you.
I'm Lisa Croupiers, 561 Indiana. I want to talk about a couple issues. Lot coverage is one that, again, many of us are concerned about. I also want to, before I talk about that, I want to reiterate, I can't remember who said it, but, the gentleman from Shores, that I wouldn't go so far to say that young people now want to live in 300 square feet, but they do not want big homes. So we are building a community and allowing people to build homes that will be non-desirable, in the years to come when these people, us people, move on. I live in a condo and it's 1,150 square feet, and it is just right. So I clean it, so I get to say, I can't imagine cleaning more than that. As far as lot coverage is concerned, I do not know why we are doing this. Already, I think many of the houses here that have been constructed recently are way oversized, McMansions, and again, the main issue is the water runoff and drainage. This has been a chronic problem with new construction. The concrete can be built right up to the lot line. It's a citywide problem. The driveways up to the property lines, as I said. We have this opportunity to correct this issue of drainage onto neighboring properties by making adjustments in this zoning ordinance. And the idea of adjusting, isn't there a standard soffit width that is used in the construction industry? But we're messing with soffit widths in order to make a house bigger? I mean, I just think that's craziness. Why are we accommodating all this? Why are we accommodating all this? Why can't we have rules and say, these are our rules? When my husband and I built a garage in 2016, we were told very clearly that we were in a 2-unit condo and we could build our garage the size that they told us to build it because the other condo had the right to also build a garage. We were told that that's it. You can't adjust your eaves and all that and to make it bigger. We were told, and that was what we did. I feel like now that people come in and it's basically the zoning staff works with people to outsmart the system. And so many of these people that are building these homes don't even live here. They do not live here. They don't even live in this state. It's just a darn shame what we're doing. The eaves, so that's, yeah, eaves and decks no longer include, the decks thing, I cannot even believe this. As Ms. Gaston said, she was talking about 77 Clinton, I believe. This almost makes legal the disaster as 77 Clinton that was in previous history, that was just one mistake after another that was made by the city, admittedly by the city, and a deck that had been built and never had a permit for it. And it was, I think that, what is that property? Some 66% lot coverage or something. And they could have built that second-story deck. So projections in the yard, balconies not being included. Again, my gosh, what are we doing this? What are we doing here? After all this time, this is the best we can do. I want to briefly talk about signs. There is a huge initiative right now about yard sign, the maximum yard sign. Many people are getting notices of code infractions for having too many candidate signs in their yard. And we do, I think I speak for residents. We feel like we are being targeted. It is residents that this is happening to, and it seems unacceptable. When we have asked last election season, there were local candidate signs that were posted illegally, and they were not taken down, and the permanent sign issue is unacceptable. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Rich Green, 408 Eagle, Shores Vacation Rentals. Trying to address some of the things I've heard about watershed. I just want to speak real quick. In Fenville, my house, and I get watershed. Every rain that it rains pretty hard, I get 3 inches of water flooding my barn. I have a 50-foot long barn, and it goes all the way to the end. So when we're allowing these new builds to add to this watershed, it's definitely problematic. But it doesn't help the short-term rentals. In fact, it adds to the argument that these are bad. When the decisions are made by the zoning commission to allow a 14-bedroom home, and clearly that's probably an investment home, or the person who doesn't really need it, versus the places that we manage, the 77 that are owned by people that live here or can't wait to move here. And so I think it just goes back to, all I wanted to say is I think it goes back to common sense. Does that work? Will it affect the neighbors? Neighborhoods need neighbors. We agree. And neighborhoods that have those neighbors, well, the neighbors have to respect the property rights of others. And if this is watershed is a problem, and it's going to be a problem because we have decks that are too big and stuff like that, well, again, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. We're asking for people to come up here and complain. We're asking for people to scream and yell and be hostile to one another or somebody else's property because they didn't like it. And I just think, again, if this is the problems, it should be addressed, fixed, and worked out so the residents can live here too and be happy. The people who can't wait to be residents here because they bought a short-term rental or are renting it out short-term so they can be here, even if they live out of state, they're people who want to join this community and be a part of this community. That's all I got.
Hello again, Mary Lynn Boogie, 70 Gabriel Drive. You have lots of interesting things on the agenda today. I too would like to put in my 2 cents regarding lot coverage. I believe that decks and balconies should pertain to lot coverage. Additionally, I would like setbacks to be measured to those items. In other words, setbacks should be measured to the farthest point on your building, not just the building walls. A particular concern is when it comes to accessory buildings, because right now the setback is 3 feet from the side and rear yard. And then if you happen to add on your eaves, you can be 1 foot away from the next person, or even, that doesn't make any sense. It really does not give any distance. And it also, just your definition of lot coverage, the last sentence of it, I'm not really sure what it means. I'm sure it can be clarified. Lot coverage shall be measured from the exterior wall or foundation, whichever is closer. I'm not sure what is closer to. I don't know if it needs some clarification, or perhaps I just don't understand it. However, my real concern, and this does also pertain to setbacks, is the home occupations. Right now, you're proposing that it can be allowed in accessory buildings. I caution you very carefully, because this opens it up and broadens it considerably. We had one incident that came, and they did get a variance, unfortunately. This was to operate a business in an accessory building, which was approximately 3 feet from the neighbor who did not want it. It was over 20 feet, I believe, from the actual dwelling. This is fair? I don't think so. I believe that having an accessory building without having the specifications, because right now, the way the home occupations is stated, it's very broad about what can be done there. Are we going to have auto repair in there, motorcycle repair in there, which is adjacent within 3 feet of your neighbor? This is ridiculous. Let's have home occupations only be able to occur within a dwelling that is occupied by the person doing the occupation. Another thing is that if it is in a dwelling, it's limited to 25% of the dwelling unit, okay? But if it's done in an accessory building, well, heck, an accessory building can be equal to the ground floor of your dwelling. If you have a ranch house, think of how big that accessory building could be. Much larger than 25% of a 2-story building, or 25% of the dwelling itself. So I ask you really to look at that and say, is this just going to exacerbate what can happen within residential areas? It truly is too broad. We've already now trying to contain the SRTs because what was done was way too broad. Let's not make the same mistake with accessory uses, with home occupations. Thank you.
Anyone else? Going once, twice, third time? Okay.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and supported to close the public hearing. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Public hearing is closed. Do you want a 5-minute break before we head into this?
Sure.
Okay. Power of suggestion.
Yes.
Motion.
I'll make a motion, we take a 5-minute recess.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 5-minute recess. So we've done the public hearing, and now we have the 10 items from the last workshop to go through. And what my recommendation is, some of these are always going to be a big topic. And if we can't get anywhere relatively quickly, what I'd recommend is we move those to this topic for future zoning amendments, to put it in there with a timeline. And then just approve what's written now as the starting point.
Chairman? Because of the detrimental effect of lot coverage and from correspondence we've received today and community input we've received today, I do have a grave concern about just allowing lot coverage as it's currently defined and measured to go forward because of the very negative impact on the health, safety, and welfare of the community if it's decreased as it is being done through this process.
I'm hoping someone in this group has motions ready for tonight to add text.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I don't plan on glossing over any of this, but I expect everybody came prepared with these 10 items to have some sort of editing process on the language. Okay? Anything else before we get started? No? All right. First one, clarification on lot coverage. So in our notes, it says will require further discussion, and more stated that the definition for lot coverage includes buildings, porches, breezeways, and roof patios, but excludes pools, fences, walls, landscaping, etc. The recommendation is to accept the proposed definition and retain the 35% lot coverage for R1A. So I'll lead off with this with each item, and then it's up to you guys to bring it home.
So is this where you would entertain a motion?
Yep.
And
I think in order to do this correctly, we're really gonna have to have you keep the exact language, and then we're gonna have to come back and vote on these. We're gonna do a roll call.
I was just going to move to strike what's provided and incorporate as it is as it currently exists.
That works too.
With the inclusion of balconies in lot coverage.
Okay.
I think, and it can be revisited at another future date, but I think that would be how we could get this moved forward more quickly.
Okay. Do you understand the motion as she stated it? Okay. Is there support, so we can go move to discussion? Okay.
I would support that, but I might take the balconies out.
All right, so he supported it, now we'll move to discussion. Okay. So, obviously, we kind of already have a feeling of why you did the motion the way you did it, but why don't you give us a little background for
Sure.
what you want?
Yes, a known citywide problem is water runoff. And my concern is that although there was effort to decrease lot coverage by removing eaves and decks, the examples in and of themselves show that the entire footprint can be larger. Well, just looking at the roof, we never even discussed decks. And that can be up to 3% or more, depending on the eave width. And because of the known problem and because there are not site plans for residential construction, changing the way lot coverage is calculated does not advance protecting, or is contrary to the master plan of preserving the existing character of neighborhoods and maintaining lot coverage requirements. Moreover, one reason to remove eaves is because eave width is not always provided. However, in the projections section of the zoning ordinance, width of eaves is required to be considered for projections into the yard. So because planning has to include eave widths, that is not a reason to remove them. And combine that with the matters already just mentioned, it would be best to maintain the current, lot coverage measurement at this point in time.
Okay. Anyone else? Do you want to talk about balconies?
Yeah, I wasn't sure why the balcony, especially if there's an impervious underneath it. I mean, when you look at rain, rarely does it come straight down. It goes left, right, and everywhere else. I mean, I think the house next to me is maxed out at 40% lot coverage. And with all the rain and runoff we've had, I haven't had zero issues with any kind of drainage problems with that. But I just don't see where a balcony would be part of the coverage. I don't see that being an issue, especially with the way the rain falls with lot coverage. Doesn't really cover the lot, covers a space, especially if we remove it back. And we're going back to what we originally have, which at 40%, real world examples of it not being an issue.
So what you'd like is to strike balcony.
Yeah, just strike the balcony portion, but again, go back to where we were with not adopting the suggestion, but keeping what we have in the way of lot coverage now.
Well, then you would need to make that motion to amend.
Oh, I'll make a motion to amend the motion to.
No, we're amending her motion. We wouldn't pass hers first.
We don't have anything to amend.
Her motion's been seconded.
Okay, all right.
I guess
We had a point of order.
Okay, that's all right. And what did you decide, Chairman?
You can keep going.
Okay, that's all right. I mean, either way, I think we're going forward somehow. I guess I would make a motion to amend the motion to strike the balconies.
Support.
All right, it's been moved and supported. And we will take a vote on that. It'll be a roll call.
All right, Campbell,
Yes.
Gruber,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes.
Hasley,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Polk,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Varney,
Yes.
Stegman.
No.
Motion carries.
Okay. So now we have an amended motion. Any other points?
I need to ask a question here. I'm a little confused to exactly where something is in our ordinance. Is this section that we're talking about here the one where we are moving our measurement from the eave to the wall? Is that included in this lot coverage section?
That's
Andy,
my
do you-
understanding, yes. And I would ask for an additional clarification from the group. Are we merely amending the definition of lot coverage, or are we restoring the previous lot coverage percentages for each district?
My understanding was 40.
My understanding is that we would reinstitute the lot coverage with how it is measured now, which would result in the same lot coverage as currently allowed.
Okay, so not just the definition found in the definitions, but also the lot coverage percentages for the R1 districts?
Correct.
Okay.
And, excuse me, that keep it from the drip line, not from the house wall.
That's in the definition.
Okay.
That's in the definition, yes.
So we haven't solved the problem that initially came up
Correct.
during our committee discussions, the problem of
That's right.
not having that dimension on plans early enough to
That's right. The
participate.
problem
So,
remains.
okay.
But, Chairman?
Yes.
But as I had indicated, projections into the yard which include eaves, requires that the width be provided. So if a plan is being provided without the width of the eaves, then the plan is not meeting what is required under the zoning ordinance, because you need to know how far it goes into the lot.
Technically correct, but practically very difficult to do
It is.
for developers, for people that are building. And it was an attempt to get something that was workable for both staff and the public.
Well, give them more examples, Larry, because otherwise we're going to vote on this and move on to the next one.
Well, I would move to amend the motion to include the wording that the measurement for lot coverage be from the foundation or the wall, whichever is closer to the lot line.
There's support? At least support it so we can give you a reason.
Support.
Okay. It's been moved and supported. Discussion.
The reason is simply to get something that's workable across the counter down the hall so that builders and homeowners and the staff all are thinking the same and can work with the information that's presented to them. That was one of the primary goals that Andy had up on the screen when we started, was to simplify the ordinance to accomplish that.
So forgive me, I missed the workshop meeting. Is this a huge issue right now with the developers and staff? Is this would make it much easier for everyone involved? Is that the idea? It's an issue?
It is a fairly substantial issue, and not just for builders, but for average homeowners who would like to build a deck or a garage. To provide a lot coverage calculation of what they have on the ground right now is very difficult. And we have assessing data that's available publicly that is based on wall measurements. And so that's very easy for homeowners to obtain. And, it just takes a lot less hand-holding from staff because we were able to point homeowners in the right direction, and they're able to put applications together themselves a lot easier, which is really what we want. You don't want staff putting together applications for property owners. It really would save a lot less back and forth between staff and builders to use the wall measurements, because that's most often what we get.
Thanks.
That's what we find that most other communities are doing, so that's what we get first.
Awesome, thanks.
If I'm following this correctly, when we went to the drip line, or went to the side of the wall instead of the drip line, to offset the additional size, we went down to 35%. So now if the motion is at 40%, and we're going to amend the motion to go back to the side of the wall, are we not in effect increasing the size of the building again?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the two aren't matched, in my view.
Would agree.
Also, Commissioner Heinen says it's a technicality, but it is the ordinance. And the way the ordinance is written is that you need to measure projections into the yard. And eaves are projections into the yard by definition. Therefore, the eave width is required. So if someone is providing drafts that do not provide eave widths, then it's not compliant with what the zoning requirements are. And I have talked with jurisdictions who used to do by wall, and they have actually gone back to eaves, because then you have a better appreciation of what the actual footprint will be. And projections into the yard can allow up to 3 feet of eave in the front and back and 1 foot on the sides. It just, there is too much gamble. The increase by 3%, well, it would be 8%, was based on, I believe, an 18-inch eave. If you go to a 2-foot eave or 3-foot eave, it's even significantly larger. And so you are exacerbating a citywide known problem by allowing a builder, a homeowner, to have any size eave or significantly undetermined eave that affects runoff, and that is just contrary. It violates our current 2018 master plan that says maintain lot coverage in our neighborhoods. And this is complete opposite. It just, plans coming to the zoning administrator that do not have the right measurements just scream out 77 Clinton that took us into litigation because it was a hand-drawn plan. We should require more defined plans, and the eaves should be part of that so that we understand what's going on and what's anticipated to be built and how far exactly it will be from the property line.
Okay, anyone else? All right, at this time, we'll vote on the Second Amendment. Yes or no? Roll call, please.
Gruber,
I was going to ask for clarification.
Okay, go ahead.
Really quick. So how does this affect the eaves or the lot size with what Larry has recommended?
How does it affect what?
Well, we go to the wall, which makes it easier for staff and for homeowners versus going to the drip, which I don't know, is the drip the side of the roof or where people put their gutters?
We usually don't, not everybody uses gutters, so we don't get gutters on house plans, so.
Okay.
We see the eaves on the house plans.
The eave.
Gutter's not counted, but
We
yes,
don't
that's
count the gutter, but that
is
would
the
be the drip edge.
Okay. All right, which is going to make the building look larger. And then we're going back to the other number. You know, what changes between what we did in the past and what we're going to be doing now? Before, we were going to the side of the building, correct?
No, we've always gone to the drip line.
We've been going to the eave.
We want to
Okay.
go to the building.
Now you want to go to the building. Okay. I'll go yes then to the building.
on it. Heinig,
Yes.
Hasley,
No.
Nichols,
Yes.
Polk,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Varney,
No.
Campbell,
No.
Stegman.
No, it passes, though.
Motion carries.
Yep. Okay, so we have the original motion as amended twice. Is there
Mr.
any-
Chairman, I would like to move to change 40% to 35%, please.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Would you like to elaborate?
I simply want to have a match. We had agreed before that if it was going to be the side of the wall, that to compensate for the additional size that it would allow of the dwelling unit, that it would go down to 35%. And I believe that it was almost the same. I think Andy had said something like 100 square feet larger. I think the others said it might be more. But I think if we're going with the wall as the measurement, we have to go back down to 35% in order for the parity of the two.
Okay, very good. Anything else?
I think we need to make sure that we include the other districts.
I was going to,
Well, we've got a motion on the floor right now, and then we can tackle that next.
well, so the 35% is only for R1A. It's 30% for R1B. R1C is actually 75%. So
Did we have other percentages before?
that's what the current percentage is in the
It's
new.
35%.
No, 35% is for R1A.
Right.
30% is for R1B.
Okay. So then I should have,
So what are you suggesting then, Mary?
Yeah.
That 30% be moved to 25?
No, that the 35% applies to the R1A district, and that we,
All the other districts as
we
well?
consider the R1B district was 30%. The R1s are different. R1C is 75%.
May I offer a quick clarification? So under your current zoning ordinance that's in effect right now, R1A is 40, R1B is 35. So this reduces both of them by 5%, which is what we had proposed to offset the overhang thing. Right now, R1C has no lot coverage limitations whatsoever, but because of the very, very small nature of those lots, we set it very high, because otherwise, if you put it at 35%, you're only gonna be able to put like an outhouse basically on those lots, because not literally, but you're only gonna be able to build a very, very small building there. So we had to do 75% to make those workable. So the 35% and 30% that Mary's referring to is what is reflected in the current draft that's in front of you, which is 5% less than what's in your ordinance is currently in effect.
So to keep this simple, what you were doing was R1A.
yes.
Okay, so let's vote on that, and then we can do another to cover the other ones. Okay?
In all honesty, with all the amendments that have been done, it, I think, is very complicated about what the end result will be from any vote.
I would disagree. We're working through the language as best we can
So how
type of
exactly,
situation without someone having pre-written one and handed it out to everybody.
well, my pre-written one was basically what currently exists. And so, I'm raising a point of order. I believe that Commissioner Heinig's amendment does not accurately amend my motion, because he did not identify what to strike and what to add, so we don't know exactly what is being proposed.
After having read this so many times, I realize what your motion was for, so I would not recognize that one. I understand, and Megan does too, how we've amended it to this point. So it's still stand, we're gonna take the vote on R1A, and then we can proceed to the other zoning districts.
Chair?
Yeah.
If it helps, I can restate the motion with the amendments before a vote is taken.
Unless anybody wants that, I think we're good right now. All right, so for Mike's motion, we'll do a roll call.
Heinig.
Yes.
Hasley.
Yes.
Nichols.
No.
Polk.
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Barney.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Gruber.
Yes.
Stegman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, now let's address the other ones that were missed.
Do we want to do them individually?
No,
Okay.
do them as a group.
So,
Well, it's just R1B, isn't it?
no, Mr. Chairman, we have lot coverages established for R1B, R1C, R2, and RM1 that differ from the existing zoning ordinance.
Okay. Mike, would you like to do those two? I'm gonna work you guys tonight, so.
Kelly, can you say those?
So,
R1B, R1C, R2, and RM1.
RM1.
so R1B is 30%. R1C is 75%.
75.
Yep. R2 is 35. What was the other one, Kelly?
RM1, 55%.
55.
I further amend the motion to change the lot coverage percentage for R1B to 30%, R1C to 75%, R2 to 35%, and RM1 to 55%.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any further discussion?
Just clarification, and that was the recommended numbers from our team. Okay, thank you. And I guess the only other discussion would be, right now, the R1C has no number whatsoever.
That's right.
And looking at, the buildings and what happens in that very unique part of town, do we think 75 is a good number? Should it be larger, seeing that people right now are really push the envelope in that area? But like I said, it's been that way for such a long time, and it is a really unique part of town.
Yeah, so if you were to remove that from R1C, you'd basically only be limited by the setbacks that are imposed by the district, which I don't know, I don't have the math in front of me off the top of my head, that'd probably be a little higher than 75%. We felt, because it's been discussed amongst this group and the committee before, that's, recognizing that stormwater is an issue, we felt it would be appropriate to put some limitation on it, but.
Well, if we put some kind of limitation, owners do have a way legally to come forward with proposals, if that was to be. Okay, just want to get clarification. Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Roll.
Hasley,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Polk,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Varney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Gruber,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes.
Stegman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, now we've got a motion amended, was it 3 times? Okay. Anything else?
So how's the motion currently read?
Megan can do that for us.
Let me put it together here for you. So, I had it, where is it? Okay. The motion is to strike what is provided and incorporate language as it currently exists, with the inclusion of the language from the foundation or the wall, whatever is closer to the lot line, and then changing the percentages in R1A from 40% to 35%, in the R1B district to 30%, in the R1C district to 75%, and into the RM1 district, and that was the percentage I don't have, that was the only one. 55. To 55%.
Excellent.
And
And
then
did you
with-
say R2?
R2 to, oh, I'm sorry, with
35.
R2 to 35%.
Thank you.
Megan, did we strike balcony?
We did.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent, okay. Anything else? All right, everybody knows what the motion is. We will do roll call on everything tonight, so.
Nichols,
Yes.
Polk,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Varney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Gruber,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes.
Hasley,
No.
Stegman.
Yes,
Motion carries.
okay. It's item 1 of 10. Good job, everyone. Second one, topic, primary versus secondary front lot lines. Moore stated that to allow better land use for corner lots, the definition includes a secondary front lot line. It is recommended to modify section 2108 to set the secondary front yard setback at 50% of the primary front yard for specific districts, with an illustrative figure added. Who's ready? Mary's ready.
No, actually, in light of the presentation and some of the comments, I actually believe that the table of uses, with the,
We're not going over
yeah,
that one.
no, but, okay.
Come back to it.
Okay.
I'm just going based off of our workshop, what this group indicated they didn't want to amend any further, but we can bring those up at the end. There's table of uses, PUDs, building height, roof lines and setbacks, and clear vision corners. Those would be the ones we can do at the end of this, okay?
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the primary and secondary front lot lines as recommended by consultant.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? No? Okay, I guess we'll do a roll call.
Okay. Polk,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Varney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Gruber,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes.
Hasley,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Stegman.
Yes,
Motion carries.
there was no further discussion.
We thought about it for
Uh-huh.
a month.
Topic 3, vested rights. Moore stated that the commission debated removing a provision about vested rights. After consultation with the city attorney, it was agreed the provision could be removed or reworded. It's recommended that new language be added to section 2300-4, clarifying vested rights.
Mr. Chairman, for clarification, that language we moved to section 102 sub 3 of the draft that we sent last week.
102-3?
Yep.
Okay.
Page 1-1, right at the beginning, so it's easy
Yep.
to find.
I have a question for Kelly. And thank you, Andy, for moving that. Kelly, the letter to the attorney also requested to restore the language to what it was before he made the changes. Did you ever receive a response from him on that?
The attorney's response to me, I did not receive a written response. The verbal response was that he had made his recommendation to the group and he had no further comment.
He had made his.
Made his recommendation to the group and had no further comment.
Okay. Well, I have further comment, I think. I would like to move to amend 102.3
Okay,
to read as follows, and Meg and I have copy here. Nothing in this ordinance should be interpreted or construed to give rise to any permanent vested rights in the continuation of any particular use, comma, district, comma, zoning classification, comma, or any permissible activities therein, semicolon, and they are hereby declared to be subject to subsequent amendment, comma, change, comma, or modification as may be necessary to the preservation or protection of public health, comma, safety, comma, and welfare, comma, except as provided in Article 23, nonconformities, period.
Support.
it's been moved and supported. Discussion.
The reason I go for this is because I had presented before that there were 36 jurisdictions that I found, just using Google, within the state of Michigan that had the exact provision that we have. In 34 of those cases, the provision was located within the scope section of their zoning ordinance. And so I expressed my opinion at the last meeting that the language in the current Article 27 really was to the level of model language since so many other jurisdictions are using the same thing. So that's why I'm proposing to restore it.
Okay, and let me ask you this, Kelly. Should this one be more of a contingent, if it passes, contingent on attorney review?
I would say that the attorney reviewed the language previously and
This is a change.
It is, the recommended language from the attorney has been provided.
Right. But my question still stands. If this were to be approved, should it be contingent on his review?
Sure.
Okay.
And I think that based on the timeline that Andy showed, there was going to be an attorney review of the recodification. So I think at that time, if he wants to rechange it back, he can.
Okay. Any other discussion?
And the other option could be just to remove any provision on vested rights.
That's always an option.
As an option.
Strike.
I believe the consensus here from public comment is that it be retained, and also considering the numerous jurisdictions in Michigan that have it, that would also warrant retaining it.
I'm uncertain. Is this primarily or partially aimed at the concern that I know has been mentioned multiple times about the sale of a property, and does the short-term rental permit go to the new buyer? Is that the vested right that we're concerned about here, or is it broader than that?
I think it's every vested right, and where there is not a vested right, it's much broader.
That's the elephant in the room, is what you're discussing.
That's what I think.
But, you know, that more has to do, you know, that certificate doesn't go with the sale. The right goes with the sale. That has nothing to do with what we're presenting here.
Right.
The individual still has to go and
The
get.
new owner would still have to apply and meet all the requirements and pay the associated fees and all of that.
Right. But what's been suggested also works just as well. I mean, whether it's there or not, that it's going to provide the same, which is there's no vested rights. Whether we state it or we don't, there's no vested rights.
And I think the way it was explained to me, or as I read it, as well as the two officials that I spoke to and among those 36 jurisdictions, it protects the city or residents. If there's a change in the zoning law, nobody can say, well, I want to build my garage 3 feet from my property line, and that's what the law was for 25 years that I've lived here, and now you've set the setback at 5 feet. I don't have to obey that. That's the kind of situation that this provision protects the city from.
But how does this speak to the owner of a property with an lawfully existing short-term rental permit? Upon the sale of that property, what effect does this have on the new owner? Any? None? What's the effect?
I can't speak to it because I have no idea. I mean, if you have a land use, I presume the land use goes with the property.
It's a land use, not a vested right.
So this would not preclude the new owner from acquiring a permit? I mean, it's not a promise or a guarantee that the new owner could acquire that permit.
Or
But
the new
I think
owner.
neither is it prohibiting that. Am I understanding it right?
Yes, I think so. Again, you know, let's take an example with the STR, with the way I interpret it. You know, we could enact a zoning ordinance that declares there's no STRs in South Haven. And I would think that the person still has the land use in that property and is allowed to use it until they otherwise abandon it or no longer use it. I mean, again, this is just my interpretation based on what I know.
But it's been clearly stated and frequently stated that the right to a permit should not transfer, if you will, to the new owner. I know the new owner would have to go through the process of applying, pay fees and inspections and so on. Is this precluding that? That's, I guess, my question.
You know, I'm not going to say yes or no because I don't know the exact answer, but again, it seems to me that the person has to get a new permit. It's not really like they inherit the existing permit.
I understand.
They have to get the new permit. So if they don't get the permit within a specified period of time, then the land use lapses because they haven't used the land use.
So I guess probably, I may be speaking out of turn for Bob, but for your motion, as opposed to what the attorney recommended, why do you support your motion over the attorney's recommendation?
Only because I'm going with what otherwise is likely model language. If others are using the same language, at the time it was adopted, it would appear that it was language that was drafted and vetted several times over, and many jurisdictions agreed that this was the way that we should go.
So a different form of cut and paste.
Exactly.
Okay.
But we paid our attorney to do this for
That's
us,
what I was gonna say.
right? So, I mean, we've got a paid professional who's done that on our behalf, and I think that's kind of, my role is to take that paid professional's opinion.
I agree with that. I think we hire professionals, two of them sitting right here, attorneys who may not be here, and we owe them the respect of giving their recommendations serious consideration. Not to suggest that Andy or Brad should be writing our zoning ordinance, but if they suggest this or that, we ought to, okay, and then give it appropriate consideration.
Mike, isn't that language similar to what we currently have?
Oh, it's the exact language that's in Article 27 in the current zoning. That's correct.
And I believe that we had gotten a recommendation that it could potentially go exactly as written with a minor change. But I think what's in the current is more changed, correct?
What? You confused me there.
What's
I think
in the
what you're-
current?
I think
what's
what
in
you're
the-
referring to is one of the memos that came in the interim where we were talking about vested rights. And I think the conclusion was, yes, we could keep it or we could get rid of it. And then I think a following iteration, and correct me if I'm wrong, is when it came back to your recommendation where we actually had the language from the lawyer.
Yeah, so my initial recommendation when we started this process was to strike Article 27 completely. So when this came up and the idea was maybe we should put it back, that's when I asked the city attorney about it. I sent him what was in the ordinance currently. He wrote back with exactly what is proposed in 102 subsection 3 currently. And so that's why we put it in there. He, again, this isn't in writing. It was just in a phone conversation with him. He says, yeah, you can get rid of it and that's fine. If they want to maintain that language, then this is what I would recommend. And the major issue is that, there are lawful non-conforming uses that do have vested rights. And so it's important to me that if there is a non-conforming use, that we're not giving the impression that the city may try to strip those rights at some point in time. I don't think that would happen, but that's why we have in here this predicate statement that says, apart from a valid lawful non-conforming use, structure, lot, or parcel, rights recognized by Michigan law and pursuant to this article, comma. So that was, I think, his sort of workaround for addressing your concern, for keeping that in there, but then my concern of not wanting to give the impression that we're potentially removing vested rights that have been legally, granted to somebody.
And
in your opinion, his motion alter what the attorney recommended substantially?
Yeah. Yes, I think so.
I just have to go back to, staff, and look at you with your staff in front of your name, Andy. Like, we have to rely on what staff gives us, so you are now staff. And our attorney. I think that I would feel much more comfortable going with professional recommendations. No offense, Mike.
None taken.
Okay, that's all.
Okay, anything else? We'll do a roll call on this one.
So I want to make sure, if we go with the recommendation which Mike has, that differs then from where our attorney, okay.
Yes.
Ready? All right. Sherman?
No.
Varney?
No.
Campbell?
Yes.
Gruber?
No.
Heinig?
No.
Hasley?
No.
Nichols?
No.
Polk?
No.
Stegman?
No.
Motion fails.
Okay. Follow-up motion. Let's go.
Are we just motioning to keep it?
Yeah.
That's it. You made it.
I did, okay. Mr. Chair, I move that we keep the vested rights in section 220-300-4 as written.
102 subsection.
I'm sorry,
3,
102, correct that, 102-3, sorry.
I still support.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call when you're ready.
Varney.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Gruber.
Yes.
Heinig.
Yes.
Hasley.
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Polk.
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Stegman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
After 9, I get
Next up,
nervous.
maximum story limitation in the central business district. We're stated that there's currently a 45-foot height limit with no restriction on the number of stories. The existing ordinance limits buildings to 3 stories. It's recommended that the commission consider retaining the 3-story limit or eliminate it in favor of a 45-foot maximum height for flexibility and downtown vibrancy. I would strike "and downtown vibrancy." That seems a little tilted. Okay, everybody understands what's being asked here? They're gonna keep the 3-story limit or go to 45-foot?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the 45-foot maximum height in the central business district.
I'll second.
Been moved and supported. Any other discussion?
I'm confused. Does that mean without a story?
Yes.
Is that what your intention is?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. No story limit, just 45 feet.
Right.
And everybody knows I'm still in favor of stories and height limits.
That's your story. And
That's my story.
Sticking to it, oh geez.
I understand it
And he's
completely.
sticking to it.
For the
getting
3rd
late.
time.
He's sticking to it.
It's getting late, you can tell.
We got a long way to go, so
I know.
We do.
stay alert.
I agree. I believe the 3-story limitation should stay. I mean, I find this large rewrite with so many substantive changes, without track changes and without allowing people to really appreciate all of the changes is not helping people understand what the ramifications are. And I anticipate some very negative unintended consequences. And so I believe the story limitation should stay, and that should come at the direction of city council, because especially considering the fact that story limitations were attempted to be removed in July of 2023 and failed for that matter. So the city council has not taken a step to change the story limitations. So I would not support removing the story limitations.
Anybody else?
So is that the subject of an amendment to the motion then?
No,
No.
no, not this motion. This motion's, if it fails, then we'll do another one.
How many times in the last few years, since I've been here, have we talked stories? Twice?
More than that.
Is it? Okay.
Well, I would say then, based on the last conversation where we talked about, where I suggested talking about a higher limit, and we said that's for some other time, I would also support staying with the status quo with the story limit.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll do a roll call on the motion for, it was a straight 45.
You got it. Campbell.
No.
Gruber.
Yes.
Heinig.
Yes.
Hasley.
No.
Nichols.
Yes.
Polk.
No.
Sherman.
Yes.
Varney.
No.
Stegman.
No, so it
That
fails.
is 3, motion fails.
Next motion.
I would move to have the maximum story limitation in the CBD to be 45 feet and 3 stories as it currently exists in the zoning ordinance.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any further discussion? I think that's important for this very small downtown in order that its character not be disrupted too awfully much, because that is the charm, I believe.
I agree.
Okay, unless there's anybody else, we'll roll call this one.
Gruber,
Yes.
Heinig,
No.
Hasley,
Yes.
Nichols,
No.
Polk,
Yes.
Sherman,
No.
Varney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Stegman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Item 5, building height in RM1. Moore stated that the commission observed different height restrictions for single, two-family, and multifamily buildings in RM1. It is recommended that the commission retain or modify the current height and story limits. I'd strongly recommend a motion to retain.
Where is our height limit now in RM1?
Yeah, I was trying to get to the RM1, that's why.
Would you like the existing or the proposed language? This is the current approved zoning ordinance.
RM1 is going to get us the multifamily, which,
RM1, single and two-family houses can be 35 feet tall. There's no story limitation. Multifamily houses can be 40 feet and 3 stories. That's the existing text. So the new text differs from that.
we certainly want to foster some kind of new development with housing, and that's one of the things when we had Kilpatrick here more than once. Is that going to be acceptable? 40 feet, you said, or 45?
40 feet.
40.
40 feet and 3 stories for multifamily housing.
And it's 35 feet for
1 and 2 family.
1 and 2 family housing.
And minimum 8,700 square feet lot.
And it's also, so it's 40 feet and 3 stories is the current height regulations in RM1.
Who hasn't made a motion tonight? Your turn.
Janice's turn.
It's just a motion to retain, or if you're gonna modify, you gotta specify the modification.
I would make a motion to retain the building heights and stories in RM1.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Heinig,
Yes.
Hasley,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Polk,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Varney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Gruber,
Yes.
Stegman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Excellent. Okay, item 6, section 400, intent statement. Moore stated that Commissioner Hasley requested following additional language to be added to section 400's intent statement. In all these districts is the intent of the ordinance to allow development which fits the existing characteristics and patterns of development using materially consistent with material of surrounding dwellings and harmonious with adjacent dwellings. Consultant language referenced the broader neighborhood, excuse me, rather than adjacent dwellings. Commissioner Hasley shared concerns with the updated language. Is recommended that this section be modified as requested, which has already been done. Where's that put us with this one?
So we made some changes after the last meeting to address the intent statement in section 400, and it was my understanding that everyone was in agreement with what was proposed in
Okay.
section 400 presently, so that's not changed from before.
Is everybody in agreement with what's in there now?
Yes.
I don't think we need to do a motion on this one then. We'll go to 7. Home occupations. More say that home occupations are now regulated under general provisions, section 2215. Is that correct? 2215?
Yes, 2115.
2115?
Oh, there was a typo.
Yeah, that might have been
that.
just,
We can fix
Okay.
yeah, it was
Rather than by district, eliminating the need for special land use permits. Moore further stated that he believes regulating home occupations could be in conflict with the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. Hosley shared her concerns with this topic and had further discussion with Moore. Recommended by the consultant, no changes be made.
I move to require a special land use permit consistent with the current zoning ordinance for home occupation.
Your support?
Support.
Okay.
I've reviewed the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. I believe I've provided emails to that effect. The Michigan Zoning Enabling Act really is looking at music teachers, things like that. And it does allow for a jurisdiction to control traffic, noise, et cetera, and that's what the special land use permit does. We've heard today that there's already a negative input put on our residential neighborhoods. The 2018 master plan as it currently exists with regard to residential development and neighborhood character has improved neighborhoods where the desired character has diminished over time. And it says amend the requirements for residential areas to permit certain non-residential uses such as offices in those neighborhoods where the desired character has diminished. So by allowing these to occur without special land use permits and to shift the burden from the applicant to the city to show an impact on the neighborhood is contradictory and violative of the master plan and not going in the right direction for the protection of the health, safety, and welfare of our community, especially in light of the fact of increasing from 10% to 25% of the principal dwelling unit, allowing it to go to ADUs. It will destroy the neighborhoods, our residential characters, and that is not what we need right now.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
EDUs, we don't,
Accessory dwelling units.
we don't have any language about accessory dwelling units with respect to home occupations. Do you mean accessory buildings?
Accessory buildings are in there, ADUs are not.
Which section is home occupation?
2115.
Accessory build, so how does an accessory building differ from an accessory dwelling unit?
Well, an accessory building just would be like a detached garage or something. An accessory dwelling unit is a living quarters, a dwelling unit, which my understanding is you don't permit those presently in the city at all, right? So I think you mean accessory building, because that's what we refer to in subsection 2, the second sentence. Because this does contemplate someone conducting a home occupation in an accessory building, but it wouldn't contemplate it in an accessory dwelling unit. I just want to make sure that we're all clear.
That would be like converting your garage to a hair salon or an art studio.
Yeah.
And that would not be permissible.
Not using Councilmember Hosley's language.
Okay.
But, yeah, under how it is written, you could turn your garage into a beauty parlor.
Correct.
And this was recommended through additional research and what you've seen now?
Yeah, so quite a few communities. So home occupations are kind of an interesting topic. There are some communities that struggle with this quite a bit. So the language that we've proposed here certainly isn't a wide open scenario that would allow for the establishment of high traffic retail or service operations within a residential neighborhood. There are standards in here to limit the amount of activity. There are a bunch of communities do allow them in accessory buildings. A bunch of them do not. A lot of them do not allow that whatsoever. So that is kind of a judgment call for you guys to make as a planning commission. The other concern I had about the special land use language that's in your ordinance currently is there probably are a lot of people doing it right now that have never come in here for a special land use permit. And if we make people do that, I think you run the risk of it being a little overly burdensome. And two, your planning commission agendas might get really full and it might prove to be unworkable. So, certainly there's some room in here, I think, that you guys can come to, in agreement with the accessory building or not accessory building, or how much of the dwelling unit can be used for the home occupation and things like that. I would caution you a little bit on requiring a special land use permit for a home occupation, though. Even if it's a more intense one, because it's something that I think from an enforcement standpoint and just from a general workability on a day-to-day basis standpoint might prove to be really difficult.
And what about allowing it in the dwelling, but needing a special land use permit for an accessory building? Would you see?
Yeah, we could do that.
Something along those lines?
Yeah, so we do have some clients that break home occupations into like major and minor, large and small. Large would be something that would spill into an accessory building that would require a special land use permit, and a small one is something that would be conducted in a portion of the dwelling.
I think there's a lot of people that have these home occupations that don't, that do that today without a special land use, and I don't see that being an issue. Potentially, the accessory building could be, I think, a way to delineate when a special land, or when a permit would be needed. I think that might, but I look at it as that might be something to look at, that then would maybe help Mary. I don't know if that would help you. To me, that's the difference, is that additional building potentially being something along a hair salon versus someone is within their home and they're, selling equipment, and, we don't know that they've got a couple additional individuals that are there themselves, and they've hired their wife, and that is their business running out of a home, and they're not even aware that they need to come down and get something. So I guess that's something I would really look at.
Well, and that is more aligned with what we currently have. Just because people are violating the law now doesn't justify changing the law. Again, zoning is supposed to comply with the master plan. This proposal does not comply with the master plan. Of course, the lot coverage didn't comply with the master plan either, but that got passed. If we need to look at more specifics, then what we should do is accept what we currently have and set this for something to be done on a timeline to amend it. But allowing to go through what is currently worded to allow a salon in somebody's garage, that is not in the benefit of our neighborhoods, of our residential neighborhoods.
And I think that's where we might be able to take the section and leave it as it is, but take out the accessory building and leave it as principal dwelling, because I think that's what we have entirely in the principal dwelling.
10% of the principal dwelling, not 25. Is what is in the current.
Yeah, 25 gross of the principal dwelling.
So the current wording for when a special land use permit is the home occupation shall not exceed 10% of the gross floor area of any floor of a residential structure.
Yeah, but the suggestion is not to have one for principal dwelling, and I concur with what is presented from our consultants as the change. What I'm saying is we can potentially take out the accessory building portion of that home occupation.
Basically unattached.
Unattached, yeah. The accessory building, the unattached. If it's attached to if it's part of the principal dwelling, it's fine. If it's a detached accessory building, then it would require a special land use.
Then you could have a hair salon in your attached garage.
Yes.
Yep.
And I do not believe that that is something that we should be encouraging when we already have so much commercial activities in our residential areas.
That one I would disagree with. When my mother was alive, she had her hair salon in our garage, and a lot of the neighbors would walk over to have their hair done.
Absolutely. I mean, I had a catering company in my house, and my garage was where my fridges were and my Cambros, and, you know, if you looked at it, it was, no one knew that I was doing it. I mean, I literally would take it to other sites, but it was still, my garage was an essential part of my business.
But that's where you don't have customers. So that's another thing is the current use, you didn't
I had
need a
customers.
special land use if you had no customers coming.
I mean, I didn't have a lot, but I had people come for tastings, yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, unless there's anything else, we have a motion that's made. And we can vote on that, and if it passes, good. If it fails, we'll do another one.
Could we state the motion, please, so it's clear to all of us?
Late, we really need to hear it again.
So it is to require a special land use permit for home occupation to comply with the current standards of home occupation in the current zoning ordinance.
Okay. Ready? Call the roll.
Yeah, absolutely. Hasley?
Yes.
Nichols?
No.
Polk?
No.
Sherman?
No.
Varney?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Gruber?
No.
Heinig?
No.
Stegman?
No.
Motion
Fails.
fails.
All right, so next motion. No changes, basically. Right,
I'm tr-
but you want to amend it a little bit.
Well, I'm wondering about the accessory building, taking that out of the 2115-2. So the home occupation should be operated entirely within the principal building or in an accessory building.
What page are you on?
Oh, what page am I on?
162.
I think it's 162. You turn up my hearing aid. I thought it was 152, 162.
Clark, would you want to say anything about the special land use in your motion?
Yeah, and then I would probably put something, I mean, that's something to think about here, because that is kind of the one, something that'd be outside the norm if it's a detached accessory building. So, I'm trying to think how to put that. And if I took this out of 2115, we would need to insert that detached accessory building. So I guess I would make a motion to strike in section 2115, number 2, the second sentence to strike the words "or in an accessory building."
Okay.
And A, maybe add in number 9, that a special land use permit is required for businesses located in,
For an accessory building,
a detached accessory building?
yeah. Okay. Seems reasonable. Is there support?
Support.
Okay. Discussion?
I would further move to amend in that same section 2 to decrease the total floor area from 25% to 10% of the gross floor area of the dwelling unit.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
Would you like to elaborate?
10% is what's currently allowed. You're more than doubling the amount of floor space allowed for the home occupation. You're already taking it out of special land use. The least you can do for the neighbors is keep it at the same size.
Anyone else?
I don't know, if somebody were to do their entire basement, that might be greater than 10%. And there could be, somebody doing computer drafting down there, or, I'm good with the 25%. Especially if we want to look at the future economy with people having that opportunity. I don't see, especially with the way this was written, there's some areas about no retail, no sales, traffic generated equipment, that creates noise and vibration. I think they're looking at types of home businesses that work well within a home business that don't create the kind of attraction or even understanding that others would know that, a business is going on, so.
My concern is the way it's written, that onus is on the city to enforce and say, you're violating this, as opposed to the burden being placed squarely on the person who wants the home occupation to say, I will not cause this. And that's the problem with this version.
I think, not to make trite of this, but it wouldn't have made any difference to me that it was 25% when I had my home business. I was too busy doing my business to worry about whether it was 25%. I think 25% is fine. A 10% would have, depends on how you measure it too. Like, would it be the kitchen where I actually cook for my family? Does that count? Or does that not count? Or does only the part in my garage where I put my Cambrels count? I think it's perfectly fine at 25%. And
I totally agree on, how do you even measure this? If I'm doing piano lessons at home, is it just going to be the size of my piano? Or is it the entire room in which that piano sits? Or if I'm a speech therapist and I have students coming to my home for speech therapy, is it the table and chair that we sit at? It's pretty vague and difficult to measure, in my opinion.
Okay, can we vote?
I have one comment.
Sure.
I've sat here tonight and we've talked about a lot of different things, but the only time that we mention the master plan goals, the only goal we have mentioned is the character of the neighborhood. And there are a lot more goals in that master plan that we have to balance out. We can't be focused on just one. And I think we all need to get back and take a look at that master plan and read some of those other goals.
All right, so there's a motion on floor to strike 25% and insert 10%. Roll call.
Nichols?
no.
Polk?
No.
Sherman?
Yes.
Varney?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Gruber?
No.
Heinig?
No.
Hasley?
Yes.
Stegman?
No.
That is,
Tiebreaker.
yeah, motion fails,
Yeah,
sorry.
okay.
So now
The original motion is which was striking, or in an accessory building, and then adding a bullet point 9.
That the detached accessory building requires a special.
Okay. Any other further discussion on that one? No? Okay, roll call, please.
Polk,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Varney,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Gruber,
Yes.
Heinig,
No.
Hasley,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
and Steckman.
Yes, that passes.
Motion carries.
All right, now we're moving right along. Number 8, topic, signs. That one is on our future calendar as a discussion item. Completion prior to summer season of 2025.
May I,
Yeah, go ahead.
may I suggest that it be finished by May 2025, before the summer?
Okay, so that would be completion prior to May. Everybody good with that? Which means we have to deal with this item before May.
Correct.
Okay,
Signs are never easy, but
No.
yes.
all right. Other than that, I don't think we need to touch this one tonight. Agreed?
Agreed.
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 Good. 9, a regulatory ordinance proposed for removal. Regulatory ordinance is proposed for removal. More stated that various regulations such as land divisions and street standards were recommended for removal as they belong under general law and ordinances. It's recommended that city staff and legal counsel ensure proper drafting and that the removed sections do not need to be replicated elsewhere. Have we done that?
Yes. Well, we have, so when it
We're
comes to.
prepared to do that?
Yes.
Should I say? Okay. Any other discussion needed by this group? I don't think so. Okay. Permeable pavers. More say that there's a question about whether permeable pavers should be counted towards impervious surface limitations. It's recommended that no changes be made. Okay? Anyone disagree with that? All good? Okay. Those are the 10 that we absolutely had to go through. If anybody wants to retouch on table of uses, PUD's building height, illustration for roof lines and setbacks, and clear vision corners, now would be the time.
Chairman?
Yes.
So in one of the slides earlier, it said that plan unit developments will now not be by special land use and will be by rezoning, but the table shows that in every district, they're by special land use. So would you please explain that inconsistency?
Yeah, they should not be in the table, and I'll delete it.
And so how are we going to track the original zoning, and what kind of notice is going to be provided, and what kind of criteria are going to be used for rezoning? Because that seems to have been lost, taking it out of special land use.
So it would be tracked on the zoning map. So when you go, the approval of the preliminary PUD by the Planning Commission City Council constitutes an amendment to the zoning maps that becomes a PUD district. Typically, it's drawn in like an outline on the map so you can still see what the underlying zoning is originally. Insofar as notice is concerned, notice is conducted in the exact same way it would be for any other rezoning, just like if someone comes in to rezone from commercial to residential. At the Planning Commission level, what's required in your ordinance is that Planning Commission public hearing on the preliminary plan, which would require 300-foot notice and publication in the paper 15 days in advance. And then also, because of some case law and how the statute's been interpreted, the City Council also would be required to hold a public hearing on the PUD preliminary plan following recommendation from the Planning Commission. So there's 2 public hearings for every new PUD. Once that step is completed and if the PUD is approved, then it returns to the planning commission basically as a by right site plan review. And the planning commission would ensure that the final site plan is consistent with the preliminary plan that was approved previously by the planning commission and city council. So no public hearing would be required at that stage. So that's typically how the process should work.
So I am concerned about the flipping of, or I should say, putting off of the approval of the final site plan of the plan unit development when that has all the nuts and bolts in it. And it's not clear to me how you can meet the criteria for a plan unit development without those specifics in the preliminary site plan. You have added height, but there are, you know, we don't have setbacks, we don't have grading changes, we don't have water runoff clarification, we don't have lot coverage of impervious material, we don't have dwelling sizes. None of that is in the preliminary site plan. And without that information, just how can we meet the criteria of, I think it's 1801 and 1802 at a minimum, without those details?
Well, we have in here as required for the preliminary process, layout of building structures, driveways, parking lots, streets, landscape areas, physical infrastructure, recreation areas, open space, sidewalks, pathways, layout and dimensions of building envelopes and lots, parking areas, phasing plan, grading plan, stormwater plan, building types. I mean, it's all in there as required in the preliminary, as part of that preliminary review, because that's information that's relevant certainly to the planning commission's deliberation. So I'm not sure where, I mean, we're not, the intent here is certainly not to just let someone come in with a napkin sketch and have the planning commission send that on to city council for approval.
Well, we have had that in the past where height was, even though it was required, was not required, and it got pushed through. And then we had tall buildings come up that were not anticipated. That was in Trailside. Although they comply with the 35 maximum foot height, they were not consistent with the previous builds. So I'm just trying to learn from what has happened in the past. And what about the requirement, you know, as Ms. Nat had raised with regard to requiring, as opposed to may require, the applicant provides open space, shall provide open space, and they can explain why it shouldn't be required, because I see that as a negative. I appreciate the counter argument that we don't want to tie developers' hands, but we continually talk about the amount of open space we need and how green space allows for proper drainage, and the way this is written, we are eliminating any requirement for green space.
So the thought process behind eliminating the green space requirement for a PUD is that you are a city. You have city lots and city streets, and you are in many cases fairly built out. So while there are a lot of PUDs that could be built on the outskirts of town, that it would be perfectly appropriate and necessary perhaps to require open space to have a better development. We also need to contemplate the fact that we might have at some point in the future redevelopments of existing buildings that happen as a PUD, redevelopment of city blocks for some reason that would go through a PUD process. And in those instances, it does not make any sense to require 25 or 35 or 40% open space, when in those areas that are closer to the core of the city is where you would want, kind of maximize the efficiency of the design. And, there you have public open spaces in the forms of streets, parks, sidewalks, et cetera.
Right.
So there it's probably not necessary. So we put that in there as a may require, not as a shall require, because we don't want to universally require, in my opinion, we don't want to universally require it in every single instance, always, ever and ever. In some instances, absolutely, just not all of them, which is why we made that a more permissive standard.
Exactly, but in situations where it really isn't applicable, as some of the ones you said, they can easily say it's not applicable.
Right, but if we require open space, then they can't get around that. Then they're stuck saying, well, I have to provide open space. I have to provide, you know, some percentage of my lot area has to be open space. If we have that as a shall, that's kind of the issue that I have with
But-
that type of statement.
It says if deemed necessary to preserve important natural features, so it's not requiring, it's qualified open space, but
I think the point that Andy is making is that in the built environment, there are very few natural features to preserve.
okay. We had one communication with regard to manufactured housing community. That is by special land use also in RM1. And with the manufacturing district, is that incorrect with the special land use requirement for RM1? Is that going to go away by rezoning?
So it's, in my opinion, unlawful to require a special land use permit for manufactured housing. You have to permit them by right somewhere in your community.
Yes.
So we created the district so that they are permitted by right within that district, but you're, you know, not allowing for the proliferation of manufactured homes in every
But-
other residential district in the city.
But where do those districts currently occur?
They don't. So this is a floating district, as we call it. So somebody, the standards are there. It's not mapped, but if someone wanted to construct a manufactured housing community, they would come in and apply to rezone a property to the manufactured housing district. Planning Commission would then evaluate that request like you would anything else, right? You would look at your master plan, you would look at your infrastructure needs and transportation and adjacent land uses, so on and so forth, and then come to a determination as to whether or not that is a, you know, advisable decision. But I would not be in support of having manufactured housing be a special land use.
Well,
in any
then,
district.
so then that's another line that needs to be removed from the table because that's currently listed as a special land use for RM1.
Then, yes.
And speaking of manufactured housing, so can you explain the difference between a modular home and a modular housing unit? And I believe that a modular home is excluded from a manufactured housing district, so are those treated as a single-family home? Are they allowed in a mobile
yeah,
home park?
so
Is that
it's-
another typographical error?
So it's my understanding that, yeah, a modular home is constructed on a permanent foundation, just like any other single-family dwelling is. So if a home arrived, you know, in pre-built sections on a job site, it would be erected on the permanent foundation, and then it would become a permanent home.
And-
One could, I mean, typically, we don't see them in manufactured housing communities, but, you know, there are some instances where we've seen manufactured housing parks where they permit both, you know, traditional, either stick-built or modular houses in addition to manufactured homes, all in the same type of development, but that's a little more unusual.
But a mobile home park actually excludes modular homes in the definition, so,
Yeah, so here you could have a modular home in any of the residential districts if it's attached to a permanent foundation, just like any other dwelling. And then the manufactured housing community district would allow only manufactured homes.
not modular homes.
Correct.
And is modular home the same thing as modular housing unit?
Possibly, I mean, I don't,
Well, they're both in there, and I'm trying to understand why.
where are you seeing in the definitions, or?
I don't recall exactly where I saw modular housing unit, I thought in the definitions.
I don't think.
Yep. So there's, on page 48.
Yeah, so that could be, Either a holdover from the, all right, hold on.
There's a definition in the book on page 219. It says modular or pre-manufactured housing unit, which provides a definition of what that particular is, which is similar to what Andy had just mentioned, built-in sections or components. In the mobile home, it mentions that it does not include modular homes as being considered a motor home or a mobile home.
Thank you.
I'm
Anything else?
What page did you say?
It's in the definitions, page 2-19.
We don't have those numbers in our
I'm not sure
agenda
what page of
packet. No, they're not.
the bottom of the,
It took them out.
Let me find it, hold on.
Just repeat it again. Brad. I trust you.
so the term mobile homes will not include campers, travel trailers, motor homes, modular homes.
Okay. Page 48 of 262.
Yeah, that's where I was at, yeah. And that's where confusion comes, because it seems like modular homes would fit in manufactured housing communities, but a mobile home excludes a modular home.
So we
So
could
was
do, we
that
could do that.
intended?
So
That-
we could permit modular homes within manufactured housing communities. I would not object to that. The main point is that we need to make sure that we're permitting the manufactured homes by right in one of your districts. So if you wanted to amend, you know, or make a change here to permit both modular and manufactured housing within a community, I would have no objection to that.
The
But it
confusion
also-
can roll between mobile and manufactured. The state, when they enacted their new legislation, it's now it's a new commission too. They consider themselves to be the Manufactured Housing Commission, no longer the Mobile Home Commission. It's kind of like, I use this reference a lot in a lot of things. All bourbon's whiskey, but not all whiskey's bourbon, kind of a thing. So a mobile home is a manufactured home, but not all manufactured homes are mobile homes.
Well, I mean, I'm being told a mobile home is going in, and I'm being told that manufactured homes are going in that mobile home, but by definition, a manufactured home, with how it's defined in our zoning ordinance, cannot go in there. So I'm just trying to understand what can and can't go in where. And that was raised by one of the constituents who wrote in for public comments. And I'm just trying, also, I mean, I'm trying to understand what is a seasonal mobile home park and what is temporary. Is it 1 month, 2 months, 3 months?
With what's temporary?
Mobile home park, seasonal. It's in definitions under seasonal mobile home park.
No, that language is exactly, that's what's in your zoning ordinance today.
In the definition, okay.
I think practical purposes, when water's drained, that's the season.
All right. Yeah, it would help to have these similarly to the grade where mobile home park seasonal versus seasonal mobile home park. I was also concerned about the language used for special land use wording. I had provided some comments where the proposed language in the new zoning ordinance does not align with the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. The current language does. The Michigan Zoning Enabling Act says the decision on a special land use shall be incorporated into a statement of findings and conclusions relative to special land use, which specifies the basis for the decision and any conditions imposed. The proposed language in the new zoning ordinance is, in arriving at its decision, the planning commission shall refer to and be guided by those standards set forth in the article and any other standards in this ordinance applicable to the proposed special land use. The special land use shall be approved if it meets all applicable requirements of this ordinance. It doesn't talk about the specifics for the basis of the decision or any conditions imposed, and I believe that there was discussions at the meeting last week about needing to have findings of facts on the record for special land uses. If anyone who attended the map presentation last week by Attorney Kaufman, she went through several aspects of that. I'm concerned that this provides not complying with the Zoning Enabling Act and is not providing the type of review that our residents deserve for special land use.
That language is in the Enabling Act, though.
The language in the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act is in our current
Yeah. No, but-
zoning ordinance, but
no,
is not in the new proposed
but it-
ordinance.
Yeah, okay. So we don't need to have it in ours. We're still required to follow the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act.
But this causes confusion as to what should or should not happen with a special land use.
It should be
Mr.
followed
Chairman,
because it's in the,
I'd like to point out section 4, we're looking at 1902, section 4, there's a sentence that says that the planning commission shall approve and incorporate the basis for the decision into the meeting minutes.
Okay.
Anything else?
Just trying to hit the highlights. So marinas do not appear in the list of special land uses. There are several that have been removed. So does that mean that they're no longer allowed, or they're just going to fall under the general special land use criteria, standards? And this is even more important for the marina docks boats, because the table has marinas that require a special land use in RM1 but are permitted in B3. But it's not listed among the sections of special land use. And in the current zoning ordinance, there's a lot of criteria that now have just evaporated in the current new zoning ordinance.
So I remember when we talked about this at committee, when we made them by right.
Marinas are already a by right use in the B3. And I don't recall any opportunity to build a marina in the RM1. I think that all of the river frontage is zone B3.
The only one that I can recall off the top of my head was Sherman Hills. That one never went fully through.
Right, correct.
There was a proposed marina there.
Correct.
If you all remember.
So,
And it is now completely fallen apart.
But we talked about the capability of the river there to support a marina in committee. I believe, and Larry, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the decision was that that wasn't an option for a marina at the Sherman Hills location. I may be misremembering that conversation.
It was an option, but it was decided with the datum that they probably wouldn't be able to hold enough water
That's right.
year in and year out to make it work.
And that's why that marina was eliminated from the special land use chapter.
but it's still listed in the table, and it has a S for RM1.
Yeah. So, I mean, it could be, I mean, that would be the only opportunity, and if it doesn't work for that property, the other option would be to then remove it from the list of special uses in RM1 and permit them by right in B3. Because Kelly, you're right, there's no other, all the other waterfront property is zoned B3, where marinas would be permitted by right.
And actually, that reminds me, Sherman Hills is dead, but it's in Appendix A. It shouldn't be in Appendix A, should it?
Yeah, so, sorry, my computer's not showing me what I want to look at here. Can't like drag this.
Do you have many more items, Mary?
I mean, a lot of these are typographical in nature, they're appearing to be, so
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but, I mean, I'm not comfortable with the wording of sections.
Typographical or wording?
Well, some of them are typographical, which I've been highlighting, but there's some where I'm concerned with the language. So, and it's too late to get into that detail, but these, showing the typographical errors, I think warrants looking at this a little bit more before we push it forward.
Okay.
And that would give a chance to look at modular homes and mobile home parks because of the definition that was carried forward from the previous.
So the next step with this would be to either come back again in a month, or we could approve as the draft as amended this evening to send on to city council, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then part of that would also be, city council could send it back again, right?
We can only hope.
Well,
We could-
they can certainly correct typos without sending.
And what about, and what about allowing the typographical corrections? Like, I'm good with typographical corrections, but, I mean, from substantive verbiage or how things read, I mean, we've got the professionals that have put this together with their wording and our legal individual that we've hired as well. But definitely finding the typographical stuff would just be easier
Well,
to work on.
these were identified as substantive, but they're turning into typographical in that they were incorrectly included in the table. So that, I mean, one typographical error is the grade average finished. You said you would incorporate how it was worded in the previous draft presented to City Council in July 2023, but it's not, you use mean as opposed to average.
Mean and average mean the same thing.
Some people differ. And so,
We need to remember, folks, that we have a contract here which has already been blown. And the more times that we bring it back here, or the more times we expect city council to send it back, the worse that looks. We also have a grant for this, which has an expiration date on it, and we might not get all of the money we were expecting from that grant if we don't get this thing moving.
Well, my recommendation for this evening would be to approve the draft as amended, contingent on the topic calendar for zoning amendments being included as part of the approval, that these get revisited right away. And then any items that come up between now and the council meeting, such as Mary's suggesting, she can submit them for correction. Because there are some, like, I'd just call them ghost phrases maybe left.
Yeah, that's
that
fine. I
weren't
mean, like-
edited out. I don't know, there's still in there. There's a few of them.
Yeah, and there's some things like, if we need to make a, adjustment to handle the manufactured housing, mobile home.
It's not so much
stuff, we
spell
can work
check,
on
it's
that.
just some wording that's, I don't know, got left
Proofreading
behind.
and, yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I move that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council that this draft be approved as we have amended it tonight.
Support.
Nope.
He's not done yet.
Oh, yeah, he's got
Oh,
to
I'm
add in
sorry.
the
Include
calendar.
this as part of the approval. The topics for future zoning amendments.
No, that's a separate item.
But the signs were part of it.
Not part of this. My motion is this.
Yeah, I understand what your motion is, but without this, I'm not gonna vote for it. But, okay, it's been moved. Is there support?
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any further discussion?
Chairman?
Yes.
I would amend to include your list that the zoning ordinance include a timeline by which we will readdress items that have been identified.
There's support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any other discussion? We'll do a roll call on this one, Megan.
Sherman?
Yes.
Varney?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Gruber?
Yes.
Heinig?
No.
Hasley?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Polk?
Yes.
And Stegman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, now we have the motion as amended.
Ready? Varney?
I'm sorry.
Motion is amended.
as amended.
Oh, is amended? Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Gruber?
Yes.
Heinig?
Yes.
Hasley?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Polk?
Yes.
Sherman?
Yes.
And Stegman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. This is one of the longest meetings we've had in quite a while. We're not quite
And
done.
not
So we're
done
not
yet.
quite done.
Hang in there.
Mr. Chairman, do we
Yeah.
have an opportunity for another break?
If you so desire,
I move, we have a 5-minute break?
okay? Is there support?
Second.
Been moved and supported. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, 5-minute break.
Thought Kelly was supposed to.
different for the second.
All right, we're back. This is the Planning Commission for City South Haven. We just come off of a 5-minute break. Our next item is citizens in the audience may address the Planning Commission
Oh, sorry.
regarding items not on the agenda. What we got, one person left? Is there anything that we haven't talked about you're interested in? No? Oh, okay.
Bless you.
Next up, unfinished business, discussion on actionable. Item 7, proposed zoning amendments, section 1743 and 44, short-term rentals. Kelly.
Thank you. All right, so this month, we need to continue our discussion of the short-term rental zoning ordinance amendments. Text in your packet highlights the changes that were made to the text by the city attorney since the last meeting. Tonight, during discussion, we need to hit on a couple of areas, including the proposed definition of lapse, changes to the language involving attached condominium units. Specifically, I'm not sure that the language that is in the text is what was intended by the group at the last meeting, so please, let's discuss that tonight. Fees and the concept of a floor and reinstitution of the annual allocation process. Those are all noted in the marked up version of the text. I do also want to remind everyone that the moratorium preventing the issuance of additional business registrations in the R1 neighborhoods expires February 19th, which is only 4 months away. So this may seem like a lot of time right now, but this proposed text will need to be noticed for a public hearing at the Planning Commission level, and the earliest opportunity for that is going to be the next meeting, which is November 7th. Following public hearing, this body needs to take action to recommend, I guess, or not, the text to the city council, at which point the city council will need a minimum of 2 meetings to consider adoption of the text. So all of that has to happen before the expiration of the moratorium, or we will be looking at issuing additional rental certificates via the lottery. I know this is one of the most important issues in our community right now, but if the overarching goal of these amendments is that we should not issue more certificates, I would encourage all of you to keep that in mind during your discussion. Thank you.
Okay. Where do we want to start with this? What item should we hit first?
I might recommend starting with lapse since it's in the definitions and those come first.
Okay, lapse.
I'm trying to get there.
Was this a definition we had before?
I don't believe so.
Okay, I didn't think so.
I don't think
The
there
word is
was-
used.
There was no definition, so.
Correct.
Yeah,
The word
that's-
is used in the regulation, but it's not defined.
That's what okay.
So you're asking us to make up the definition?
More or less. The attorney has proposed some language here, and if there is some other language that you all would like to include, he's willing to review it.
Mr. Chairman?
Mm-hmm.
May I ask a threshold question of Kelly?
Sure.
The word lapse is used in 3 different sections where the circumstances that will allow a short, basically the land use to go away. And one of them is lapse. And in those 3 sections, they talk about a lapse of 1 year. So my certificate expires on December 31 of 2023. If I haven't renewed by December 31, 2024, my certificate lapses, as does the land use, right?
Right.
Okay. So that 1-year period, is that something that we have just used in South Haven as our guideline? Or is that 1-year period based upon, state law?
Yes,
case
state law, yes.
So case law has said.
Land use, yes.
The land use lapses if you fail to use the land use for a year.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that.
And one of the suggested words in here is something for us to look at is non-compliance with any city code or ordinance. So if the city decides to create a code or ordinance that makes 100% of the short-term rentals not non-compliant, then that would create a lapse. So that, I know this is a suggestion by someone, but I'm not sure if I,
Well, for me, I don't understand why it just say, means whenever a valid registration of a short-term rental with the city becomes invalid, period.
And does that mean the city gets to make a rule and all of a sudden all rentals are invalid?
Well, this is
Need to
like a
follow
dot kind of explanation after the word invalid.
Oh.
The way I look at it, it's not anything truly specific.
So for example, just in how it's used, look at 1743B, where it talks about established grandparented zoning use. And then it goes, I'll just let you read it, and you'll see the context.
Got it.
So the question at hand is whether we put a period after invalid and strike the rest, or as you see at the end where it says, or blank line, are you gonna add other things?
Nothing to add.
well, lapse means when it becomes invalid, but then do we have ways for it to become invalid? Then we have lapse again for the 1 year, which is pretty clean, non-conforming use, that's the year, then that's the gist of it, but
Well, and in the definition, is the noncompliance with any city code or ordinance another way of saying, as in 1743, is revoked pursuant to 10245, which generally represents some violation of code. So is that redundant, potentially? I mean, the benefit of putting examples is that it illustrates how the lapse can occur. But the detriment of putting examples is if you don't get them all, then someone's going to say, well, it's not listed, so it's not a reason.
Exactly.
And this way, if you leave it with the period, then you can sort of let the zoning administrator or the ZBA or the court determine what's going on. I mean, that's,
You got it. So do you guys want the short version or the long version for the definition of lapse?
guess I'm good with the short version.
I'm picking short.
Short?
It's just like at Meyer, the short receipt versus the long
Yeah.
receipt. I want the short receipt.
Okay. Any other strong feelings? Can we move on?
So could you clarify for me which we're striking some language there?
Yeah, anything after invalid. We would be striking due to its expiration and the rest.
Okay.
Think right, revise. Okay. So the next one is, we're taking all the ones in blue, correct?
Yes.
Short-term rental property, any lot, parcel, or property with a short-term rental unit thereon. Anything wrong with that?
I don't think so.
You always have to like when you use words such as thereon.
Yeah.
Everybody good with
To a
that
large
one?
degree.
Good with that one?
Is there any reason we should be concerned with that one, Kelly?
No, I think there was just some effort here to clarify the difference between short-term rental property and short-term rental unit.
Excuse me. Short-term rental unit, any dwelling or dwelling unit used or operated as a short-term rental.
So I have a problem having dwelling in there because a dwelling by definition is a building containing one or more dwelling units. And you get a short-term permit per dwelling unit. You cannot have more than one dwelling unit per permit, right, Kelly? So, I mean, a condo association is a dwelling, and each condo in it is a dwelling unit.
Right.
And so a short-term rental unit is only going to concern a dwelling unit. Not a dwelling may not have all short-term rentals. Like the condos that we were talking about tonight.
Yeah, that's a fine line there.
Right, so.
So
So
strike
we
the
just
word
strike the
dwelling.
dwelling unit?
No, strike dwelling.
Strike dwelling or.
Dwelling or.
Dwelling or.
Yeah.
Any dwelling unit. And dwelling unit is well defined earlier in the document too, so we can refer back to that.
Well, that's, yeah, I mean, that's in the zoning ordinance per se, and that's what, a dwelling unit is a building or portion thereof that is designed for human occupancy, et cetera.
Right.
Okay.
So,
And then I would also question the use of the last three words, short-term rental, which in and of itself is not defined, but rather just go back to the basic definition and say, engaged in a short-term rental activity or use, which is the first definition other than lapse. Because that's the actual use or activity that it's conducting.
yeah, no, and I had provided something to that effect. So,
Are people confused?
well,
Are you? No?
so, I mean, I'm not sure. Yeah. I mean, it would just, I would say a short-term rental unit is any dwelling unit used for short-term rental, for a short-term rental term.
You could also say a short-term rental unit is a short-term rental.
Yeah, I don't,
I mean,
Now
you
we
can
just
dice this a million ways.
Yep.
All right, let's leave that then.
All right. On to.
after striking dwelling or.
Yes.
Okay.
What are we doing?
Strike the dwelling or.
What we already
Dwelling or?
discussed.
Strike, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Leave the rest.
Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Ooh, move down, they is a word that is struck, in short-term rental business units. I don't know, that's fine. And we got C, 1743, C, business units, that looks fine. And we go to caps B, lapse for a period of 1 year. Seems right. And bottom of page 258. A little more, you can read that one.
I'm sorry, may I go back, maybe go back half a page?
Okay.
Under the reasons why something could lapse, it has, the unit is destroyed pursuant to 1904 of this ordinance. 1904 in the current ordinance has to do with the repair and restoration of a non-conforming use that says if a property is totally destroyed, you're able to build it back as it was in a continuing non-conforming way. I'm not sure how that has anything to do with a unit is destroyed. And this is probably the demolition destruction
Yep.
item that the city council sent over for clarification.
Yeah, and that was highlighted last time, and I don't think we made any resolution on it. And I had it highlighted to discuss, but I know he was sticking to the blue. And it's also talking about nonconformity, and we should not have any short-term rentals that are nonconforming. They need to all be conforming with the short-term rental ordinance. So I know the attorney had commented, I think this was in the September 5th meeting, in the memo that was in that agenda packet, but I think there needs to be a distinction between whether it's destroyed by an act of fire, wind, whatever, natural act, or whether the homeowner intentionally destroys it to build something different.
And
And
I
that-
concur, that's a great point, because people can destroy it and rebuild a non-conforming use, and that's not where we're going with that. However,
They can, but they have to leave one wall.
Yeah.
but if there's a fire, someone may.
You have to let them build back what they had, otherwise the insurance company will
But-
be like,
Well, only 60% value, or not more than 60% value is the way it's worded.
But I think the context here is, are we saying either in a demolition or a destruction, one being voluntary, the other not being voluntary, is that either one of those or both going to lapse the land use? So if you just have land left over, do you still have the land use? Because it's in the context
Yeah.
of this, when the land use expires. Is that correct, Kelly?
What this section says is that no matter how the unit is destroyed, if the unit is destroyed, the rental use is gone.
And
Correct.
the land use is gone?
Yes.
Yes.
That's not how I interpret that phrase. But is that what was intended?
That is how it was written, and that's how Attorney Bloom explained that this is written.
And this is not new, right? This was in
No.
this is in the 2018 version?
No, this was in the September
No.
5th
September,
version.
okay.
So, and I had raised a question about that, and I think
Yes.
that, so I would mark that as something to discuss when the attorney is present.
Lightning and fire, there is a difference. They
The
didn't
attorney is willing to
intend that.
consider any language that we send him. He'll review it.
Yeah.
Okay.
259, page 259 speaks to this as well, decreasing the total number allowed. It says, if the short-term rental due to abandonment, the dwelling is destroyed, the registration lapses, so the number of lawfully existing units decreases by one. So, to Mike's point, the land use goes away.
But I don't think that's what that phrase says, but, yeah, we can work on something to send him.
other than that one, is there anything else you guys want to look at?
No, if we go back to the one where you had discussed, I think, 2,
Yeah.
I think they did a better job of getting, my concern was Maplegate, which is completely built out. I think this language then creates this happening to the other areas once they're built out. So instead of having to re-look at each one of these PUDs after they begin they get to a spot, this will just take care of it and take them out and put them back into the cap.
Well, I still object to Sherman Hills being included. Sherman Hills is not a PUD, it's dead. It has to be resurrected. And so, And that was a directive from the city council to strike Sherman Hills.
And I would concur with Sherman Hills. It's not even a functioning PUD anymore. Now, if someone were to come approach the city, I think that's the flexibility that they want to have.
But they can make that plea at the time they come forward.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we want to strike Sherman Hills? Is that what I'm
Yes.
Okay. Anything else with that one?
Go ahead.
No, go.
Somebody's gotta go to the next one.
So is there any appetite for discussion? Now I've seen this so many times, I can't find it. Where are the condos excluded? Is that coming up?
That's coming up.
Okay.
It's,
Maybe we'll wait until there.
Yeah. So I think it should just say, at the top of page 259, I think it should just say dwelling units, not dwellings. I am, and talking about the caps, so, I mean, these are excluded. Subsection C1. Already says that they don't apply to C1. I'm not sure why they're talking about increasing the caps. So I think that needs to be clarified, reconciled. I don't.
You're not
All of
good
the
with
units in those PUDs, strike Sherman Hills, they are, even though they may be lawfully existing and have an STR, they are not currently in the number. They're not in the cap. But when they become 75% occupied, then they go into the number. That's what it's saying to me.
Yes.
So all of the units in that PUD go into the number. But, but here's the problem. We're not doing a percentage of the cap. And this is where I have an issue with the cap being set by the current number. I think the goal has always been to decrease it to an X amount. And so the cap, the top number is not really relevant. And that would also resolve my concern with the continual reference of legally existing as of December 31st, 2023. It just doesn't seem, I haven't had enough time to really understand it, having gotten this late on Monday with everything else on my schedule this week. It's very unfortunate that we didn't have it over the weekend. So there's just something that I think is not quite right in here. And I just have to have more time to think of unintended consequences.
Well, it's the forever argument, because you have the group that wants a limited number per block or within a radius. I'm in the camp of, you should take the total number of dwelling units in the city, a percentage of that, period, flat. And then you've got the other group, well, these should be exempted because we're trying to fill them up and get them sold. So we're all over the place. There's no consensus, never will be.
There's a strong sentiment in the city that there is a number in the minds of some people, whether it's Dan Agnello or somebody else, it's 250 or it's 300 or whatever. But I don't know how we could do that without taking from those who are lawfully in existence.
And then it doesn't take into consideration additional units that are built over the years.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So whatever that lawfully existing number is, even though, Mary, it might be hard to pin that down, I think that's the number we have to be at. And then these units in the various PUDs would add to that number once they're 75% built and occupied, or at least have an occupancy
Right, but,
permit.
and so this is where, so I think it doesn't add just to the cap. I think it affects both numbers because you now, I mean, the lower level is what he's talking about. That is contemplating only the non-exempt. And now you're dumping the non-exempt into the, I'm sorry, you're dumping the exempt into the non-exempt. That's going to affect both numbers. It's not just going to do C1. See, I said there was something not right. So you've got to look at both numbers, not just the one number,
Assuming we have a floor.
assuming we have
that
a
we agree
floor.
on. If we don't have a floor, we
Because the
don't have to worry
floor is going to be different if you include all units, if you have fewer exempt units.
So I'll bring up my point since it's right above the A where the attached condos have been removed from excluded, as we had discussed. We had a speaker tonight that not only said condos should be put into the pool with everything else, but also PUDs. I mean, someone said before that the reason for excluding, or for including the condos in the non-exempt is we need housing. A house is a house is a house, you know, in a PUD or a condo. So what if we were just to get rid of exempt altogether, which consists of the PUD and the attached condos, and then we have one class, we have the max cap, and just be done with the entire exempt category.
But if the current cap is, let's just say it's 400 to have a number, then we would add 50, 75, or maybe 100 additional ones for PUDs and condominiums and everything else, making the cap now maybe 500.
So,
A lot of people will be even
Closer to
more unhappy with
800.
that.
It's closer to 800.
Yeah.
800.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the thing, the number has to reflect how many there are. And is the 800 with personal short-term rentals?
Yes.
But to counter, just to rebut that a bit,
We're going to get lynched.
you can't have more. Right now, with the exempt, the PUDs and the condos can still get more permits.
Right.
Well, but the
Which is-
proposed language would make for more. It would raise that cap.
It's just, if we're saying we have 700, if we have, 500 non-exempt STRs, that's where the cap would be. But if we're saying we want to include the condos and the PUDs, it might be 650 or something, and that's where we stay. But we're still at the same place. We have the same number of STRs. We can't have more.
Unless we built more.
So, I mean, and then you take away the whole concept of exempt, which, theoretically might be a less administrative on the group, I don't know. They have to keep track of what's exempt and what's not.
And, I mean, if the reason you were exempting them is because you were trying to spur development, we're in a housing shortage.
I wasn't trying to exempt anybody.
No, but I'm saying that argument no longer applies post-COVID and everything else. So, I mean, it's ripe for removing any exemption.
We've been dealing with this for, I don't know how many years now, 7, 8, maybe more. My thought's always been the most simple was total dwelling units and a percentage.
And just,
You have all these different exemptions, and the only reason it's been working was because Ryan, our map maker, has been here, and he has institutional knowledge at this point. If he ever leaves, nobody's gonna be able to step in and keep up with that.
And I have heard from some residents who do live along the lake shore. And those, I think some have a desire that those might be in potentially an overlay district that may allow a different percentage for short-term rentals. But that is something that the city council can address, as was noted through the regulatory ordinance, not necessarily zoning.
Okay. Well, other than some more discussion on that one, and I would suggest if we're going to notice this, that's what you're asking us, right, for our next meeting?
Ultimately, yes, if we're ready for that.
Then you'll need to come to the next meeting with prepared motions if it's gonna change from this draft.
Right.
Okay. We'll do our part to stay on the calendar, but that's the only way we're gonna be able to do it. Otherwise, it will get drug out another month.
Right.
Okay?
And just note that the section 1904 is also in the next paragraph immediately below, so that, I think, could be addressed by both. Changes to both of those could be
I
addressed.
agree. So be prepared at the next meeting,
So we'll
have
leave,
your amendments.
we would leave this language as it is
Yes.
for now.
Yes.
Were we going to continue to discuss the blue, or?
There's so much to discuss, and it's already 10:45.
So if I could just suggest that the change added to, at the top of page 260 with occupancy and size of the dwelling. So overlays, density, those, the attorney had recommended those go into regulatory. The regulatory version that was in front of the city council already is looking at occupancy, site, oh wait, no, those are for fees. Where is, I'm sorry, there. Did I not print a page? Nope, never mind.
You good?
Well,
I am good. I was thinking that something else was in here, but,
there is the one area where
oh,
we.
wait,
Go ahead.
no, the dwelling in a duplex or multifamily residential condo, I think that was inadvertently put under that there shall not be short-term rental in these areas. I think there was discussion of putting that in the cap, not prohibiting short-term rentals.
Correct, that's why there's a little, was there a note here, intended question mark? That was mine, it's like, there's one thing we should talk about before we leave, and that's like, this I think is in the wrong spot.
Yeah. So that, I think, needs to be moved up. Potentially in,
Where's it need to go, Clark?
Oh, I don't think that one needs to go anywhere. I just know it doesn't belong there as an excluded use.
yeah, I think that was supposed to be, I think it was just simply supposed to be removed from excluded. I don't think it was supposed to have a special entry.
At the top of page 259, the comment about condominium units attached to other condominium, that's struck. That is, appears to have been deleted or intended for it to have been deleted.
Well, no, it's supposed to be removed from excluded dwelling units counting towards the cap. It was supposed to be allowed as a dwelling unit along with all the homes under the cap. That's why it was stricken.
Okay.
So striking that makes it go from exempt to non-exempt.
Correct. And it wasn't supposed to be added as prohibited. If this is being set for a public hearing, what I would request, so that we know exactly what is being substantively changed from what we currently have to what's being proposed, is that we have a marked up version, not from the previous version, but from the current zoning ordinance.
Yep.
And I note that what we originally got was actually a marked up version from what the city council got, not a marked up version from the current zoning ordinance.
Is that doable?
Yes.
Okay. You can just do that.
And potentially what we could do is provide language for the attorney to consider to address the 1940 or whatever, those two areas. And that could be part, we wouldn't, it may avoid having to make an amendment at the hearing. Would you agree that's acceptable?
Yeah.
We have to do that in a meeting, though, or is it okay?
No, the attorney can come forward with proposed amendments based on our discussion,
Yeah.
which is what this version is. So it wouldn't be any different from what we got from here.
Check.
I'm just trying to streamline.
I know, I know.
And we do
Just
have
making sure
streamlined
not
because
coming
we've
back
got
and doing it again.
way too
that's
much
all.
on our plate. Way too much. Okay, I think we're all decided then on how this item's gonna go down.
So do we need a motion to set it for a public hearing?
No.
Okay.
It's non-actionable.
No.
Oh, it's true,
Staff
non-actionable.
will just do it.
Set it, okay.
Okay. All righty. Megan, do you want to speak for staff?
I have comments.
Okay.
I have good comments. I wanted to introduce you all to Samantha Lindsay, who is the new Luke, but is nothing like Luke. So welcome, Samantha.
Do you play chess?
So be patient with her as she acclimates to the new position. I want to remind everybody about the master plan open house next week, Thursday at 4:30. I know quite a few of you can't be there. If you can't, that's okay. If you can, please feel free. It's in this room at 4:30 on Thursday.
Will it be broadcast?
It will not be broadcast. I want to say that last week, Bob and I had the opportunity to go to the Planning Michigan Conference. There were a lot of really great sessions there, including the one by Catherine Kaufman. And one thing that really struck me was a common theme across all the presentations, where people talked about success stories and things that were going right in their communities, and that was really collaboration, community partners coming together, working together toward a common goal. And I feel like when things are contentious in a community, it's easy to forget that. It's easy to forget that we all, for the most part, really want the same thing. We want our community to be a great place. And so I wanted to just throw that out there too, as just kind of a rah-rah South Haven comment. That as we work on some of these really difficult topics, short-term rentals, Overton's coming up, it's really important that we kind of rally behind one another and work together to achieve our goals. That's all I have for today.
Okay.
Just off of Kelly's comment, I mean, I think we were collaborating well tonight. I think we worked well in getting through those 10 items, so thank you for doing that.
Welcome. I hope you feel better.
Thanks for your guidance on this. It was a big chunk to take off, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm glad she got to visit one of our shorter meetings. That's it.
This meeting was amazing.
I promise they're not all this late. Usually they're only till 10. Oh, gosh, no. Welcome. Other than that, nothing.
I'll just confirm what Kelly said. I did go to that conference in Grand Rapids Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I'm certainly smarter than I was. I'm not sure how much, but I learned a lot and got to hang out with Kelly and Luke and some other people. And Kelly's exactly right. The city manager and planner for Fenton, Michigan, spoke and talked about how small Michigan cities can thrive, I think was the title of it. Really interesting. A lot of other good stuff as well. A lot of it surrounded housing, affordable housing. There were representatives from a couple different manufactured housing folks there, Sunrise or Sun City and Clayton Homes, and learned a lot about that too. So time well spent.
All right. Yes, welcome. And thank you. You did a masterful job tonight. That was very good. And, well, I have a lot to say. Now's not the time to do it. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.